Go live. We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plat Valorant episode 207. I'm your host, Sideshow. Hello, nice to meet you all. And I'm joined today by Sliggy. Let's get him on the show. Oh, there he is. We'll have TMV on today as well. So let's have a look at this guy. And Achilles, I think we'll just leave him with that picture from 2019, actually. How the times have changed you, Achilles. You come on just sipping on a beer.
I had to. It's the victory beer, you know?
The victory beer.
Victory sip.
Well, I think Achilles alluding to the fact that T1 winning at Masters Bangkok. What he might just be winning at life. Yeah.
I mean, kinda.
I feel that way. I certainly feel that way.
Achilles, you casted the finals, T1 won. It was scripted as hell. I mean, you genuinely must be on cloud nine.
No, because they didn't make the tournament. But for T1, excellent. And they'll probably, maybe never make another one. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? But yeah, no, it's been awesome. The whole thing was just sick. Like I didn't after I got the final. That was cool. T1 winning was just a nice little cherry on top. But I was just super happy, mostly for just Buzz and Stacks in particular. Like the org, whatever. Buzz and Stacks, those are the ones that I was like the happiest about.
Yeah, I mean the final moment where they were running towards each other and embracing each other at the end was that warmed the cockles of my heart. The deep, cold, dark cockles. Let's get into some housekeeping stuff first, shall we? So first of all, if you want to become a member for the show, we'd super appreciate it. We've been doing like very regular episodes covering all the regions and stuff. We're going to get back into doing all of the regional stuff in 2 weeks, I think, is when China kicks off, and then the week after that, every other region kicks off. I think
you're correct.
That's right.
We're on the 22nd over here, yeah.
Right, and so that's roughly what our game plan is going to be. We've also now got a couple of weeks break because they've lengthened the season out this year. Holy shit, that's different. So we'll be able to do some. I think we're going to do a power ranking of all of the teams next.
Oh boy.
Like all of them, and we're going to be taking a look at some roster change discussion and stuff next week as well. But if you want to become a member and support the show, then please feel free to do that, and you'll be able to get access to our members-only Discord, ask us questions, and get bonus content such as the members-only episode that we did during Bangkok, where we were answering a bunch of questions. Like, for example, what was one of them? Would you eat TMV if he turned into a chicken nugget?
I don't remember that one.
Why is it
I remember,
Yeah, why is it always me in these?
If we had the button that said it would kill him, would we press it? I remember that one.
Yeah, if you had a button that would turn TMV into a chicken nugget, though, would you do that?
Yeah.
Just leave it at that. It was so resoundingly just a yes.
Sliggy just likes chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets are banging though, yeah.
I have some right here.
Damn, dude.
Well, we were wondering where Bren had gone.
Right there.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into our... there's a members question here, but Kurt was like... So normally we just pull the members question up on the screen.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that.
Yeah? You want to do that?
We got the members question here.
Okay, let's have a look at this then. What will Bren's new game be? I'm afraid I don't understand it, though. During the members stream, says Leo the Gamer, Bren had promised to quit Valorant if T1 won. So what will his new game be? Holy shit. Did he really say that?
He did. We have video evidence to support that. If you missed the episode, we made a little short for y'all.
Yeah, let's roll the tape.
That's amazing.
Jingle jangle jangle, I don't want to lead a jungle. No.
They're going to end up winning the tournament. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be some dumb shit like that. And I'm going to quit Valorant. I'm crashing out! I'm crashing out! This is how I lose my job. No! No! Oh, God! You know what? Guys, I'm going to do some reflecting. I'll see you later.
That's sick.
Fuck!
What are you saying?
I don't know. I don't give a good thing to what.
Just keep apologize.
안녕하세요. 호프맨입니다. 제가 지난 플랫 차트
에피소드에서 T1은
Come on, white boy.
T1은 마스터즈 방콕 8위 팀이라는 아리석은 애축을 한 곳에 대해 T1 TS의 사과 말씀드립니다.
Good. And who do you not want
조
to sue?
조마씨입니다. 조마씨님 고소하지 말아주세요. 죄송합니다.
That is
Incredible.
That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Dude, how have we peaked in March, man? We're not going to be able to top that. That's insane. What an incredible apology that Alice has forced out of Bren there. That was actually like, that was interrogation room footage.
Whichever of theirs idea it was, I owe them the biggest hug. Because Jesus Christ, that was just... if that had come out 2 weeks ago, it would have taken Best Picture at the Oscars.
His new game is going to be Squid Game, looking at that.
He's in fucking Saw. Sorry if it's not long enough. I might have demonetized this, but I couldn't help it. I was nearly cursing throughout that video. It was so damn funny.
No, that was amazing. The edit on if you missed the Masters Bangkok members only stream, it was just nuts. I mean, the energy was very silly. But the fact that there was enough content there of Bren just screaming into the microphone to be able to cut together in many different portions is mad. Yeah, it's gonna be sad when I have to find somebody else to work with. Like, I don't know, Sliggy or TMV, if you're interested in picking up play-by-play casting and replacing Bren.
That wasn't really on my path to do. No, I'm okay.
No,
yeah, I'm good.
Oh shit.
I mean,
okay.
If you don't find somebody within the next 5 years, Paper Thin's probably going to kick the bucket by then. So your fault. So you just slot right in with me. I mean, he's just ancient. We're just waiting these days.
Yeah, it is sad, isn't it? It's good that he got a finals to go out on, though.
Yeah, that's why we really got it. I went up to Leo and was just like, hey, it's his last wish in life. Can we just make it happen for the poor guy?
Right, so before we get into talking about the actual matches at Bangkok, though, I want to talk about the Duelist agent that got released. Because we got an announcement that there's going to be a new Duelist agent, one that's super heavy mobility called Waylay. Thai agent released in Thailand, zipping, zapping, zooping all over the shop, and even got a show match of Tens and Primi playing against each other where... Listen, Tens got diffed, didn't he? Primi was annihilating. What did you think about it? What do you think this agent is looking like in terms of its impact on the game?
I think
I'll let the smart people go first.
Okay. Well.
Okay. No.
Yeah.
I'm in Sliggy. Sorry, I'm in Sliggy.
You want me to go first? I think with a kid like this, they're never going to be bad. Basically, yes. Like you got an improved jet dash. You got a get out of jail free card, which is similar to a chamber, but obviously 8 seconds long, so it's like not as good. But you can also like get a lot of info and then get out of there, and then like. The slow thing's a little bit better than I thought it was originally going to be as well. Because if you, like, sometimes it's going to take teams a while to, like, see that they're going to get hit by the U-tool and just keep their gun out instead of, like, trying to move or, like, switch their guns or use some kind of U-tool. They're just going to have to, it's going to take people, like, 2 to 3 weeks to realize that just hold the gun out and just tank it, essentially. Because if you try and dodge it, you're just going to be going slow, then you get the U-tool out. So, I mean, I don't think it's overpowered. but I think it's good because I think like in a team environment, comboing stuff with like Omen Flash, any kind of flash dash has always been really strong in this game. And then this is just insane dash, and I think there's loads of stuff you could do, even like on the ecos with like Buckies and Judges and stuff on attack as well. So it's gonna be fun for sure. But I don't think it's overpowered. I actually think it's relatively balanced well.
Yeah, I would say this is like a B tier agent. Like it definitely has uses. I think the problem is right now in terms of like will it get played by pro teams is there's so many good agents now that like we are in a wealth of agents. And like if this was this time last year, I probably wouldn't be saying that. Right? You could probably maybe find a spot for it. But now with like Teo and Vice, and we'll talk about maybe like buffs to Deadlock and just there's so many good agents, and I'm like, it's so at first I was like, oh, this looks really quite good, right? But then like on the defense side, I think is where you like need to be aggressive kind of thing, because you can't just like, you have to actually like pull out the dash and then click the button, and you can only dash the way that you're going. So it's not like you can like dash out easily. That's more for the E, but as you say, Sliggy, that's like only 8 seconds. And then if you time it wrong, you're going to be like in a Phoenix ult situation where, you've done a scream and you've ulted at the wrong spot. You're going to get knifed in the back, kind of thing. So I was thinking about like, where would you play this? And I was like, maybe, because I think you'd want to be somewhat aggressive with this agent, right? Like that's how you want to play it. So I was thinking, maybe Fracture. I could see definitely like, Paper Rex. This might be a godsend for Paper Rex, right? In terms of they could just like abuse this agent whilst no one else really knows what's going on. Something's dashing up above people and down and around and all that. You can definitely see stuff like that happening. I just think that right now, like if you're a B tier agent, that doesn't mean that you're bad, but we have, like I don't think Waylay is as good as Yoru or Raze. I'd put it in the kind of like Jet Neon kind of sphere. But Jet and Neon are probably going to be better on some maps as well. So I'm not sure there's a massive space for it right now, but it's not awful.
Yeah. I'd be curious. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I do agree. I feel like Paper Rex, this just seems like something that they're going to... Like, Forsaken's going to be the one who plays it because he has to play every agent under the sun. But I'm not sure how it's going to go in pro play. I feel like this is going to be just such a pub stomp agent though, or just like a smurf agent in ranked. Like I feel like this is gonna wreak havoc, and they're maybe going to struggle to try to figure out how to balance it for that.
You don't have a survival mechanic though, like when you engage into a site, right? Because you don't
have your recall thing like that.
Well, yeah, that's the idea though. You just recall,
that you recall. I don't know. I think it's gonna be. Oh, dude, when I'm watching it, I kind of don't care about how good it is, because I agree that it's not going to be busted, and I don't think it's going to be shit. So it's going to be somewhere in the middle, and it just looks fun. So when I'm watching it, I'm just like, I actually don't really care right now. Like, I've got enough faith in the balance team that I don't... I feel like it's almost wasted effort to be speculating about it. It's not like Tejo when it got launched, and you're like, oh my god, this kind of... You can imagine this being oppressive at the pro level. If people do this to me, I might uninstall and join Bren in Roblox or whatever the hell other game that he's going to. But I think it does just look fun. Like, I am just anticipating hopping on and feeding relentlessly with this.
Oh my god.
It's not my kind of agent.
Some of the clips that we're going to see from you, I'm sure are gonna be next level trolling from
Bren
you.
Was straight up talking to the dev, rubbing his hands with glee, being like, I am gonna feed so much with this agent. God bless any of those rank queues over there. But
I think like pro team wise, it's gonna be fun when teams go to pick it, because there's so many like new set strats that you can do. Like there should be some really cool aggro stuff on defense and on attacks. It's definitely one of those like I'm not saying it's a one and done agent. I'm just saying that it's going to hit really hard the first time you play against this agent.
Big surprise value.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it might be a bit of a one and done agent though as well, because I think that, for example, when you're doing like these flash and dash combos, right, that we saw these show match teams even try to pull out, you actually have to be really precise in order to land the dashes onto where you're going, because you don't have the drift mechanism that Jet does to try to alter things slightly once you get to your destination. You don't have the control through the air that Raze does once you do that. So you have to be very precise with your targeting to get onto high grounds and land on them. But also that means that you're really predictable as to where you're going and where you're landing. And I think it is a bit of a one and done, because if you realize, like, oh, they're doing a flash and dash exec on as like the mid crunch, the tiles crunch kind of thing, and you realize that they're just going to land on top of the high ground, like, I just think like a lot of that is going to end up getting sorted out pretty easily.
There could be some very funny moments where, like, if you try to do the like an exec onto A, where you're going off the side of the map, where you can kind of have like the jet updraft dash over onto like the bridge with like an open TP as well, but you have the Waylay.
Wait, you mean on an Abyss? You mean?
Yeah, I said Abyss.
Right, yeah.
Did I not?
No, sorry, I just misheard.
Oh, but yeah, on Abyss, and then you overstay a little bit on bridge, and then you just had to back out, but then your recall just puts you off the side of the map, and you just fucking die. It's gonna be some very fun moments.
But I think actually, I'm not even sure you can do that, because you have to place the recall. So I think
I thought it just took you back to.
No, it's not a time-based one. You have to actually like put it down.
So you have to place it. Okay, that's my bad.
Can you accidentally place it mid-dash? Like, could you throw it off the map and like recall into the pit on a bit?
If anyone's gonna find out, it'll be you somehow. Yeah,
must be tested.
This is I don't have testing access, so I haven't gotten to play around with it. And when the video and the show match was going on, it was very loud in the back room, and I was trying to get ready for the final, so I didn't pay that close attention.
Yeah, fair enough. Apart from PaperX, is there anybody else that you can imagine picking it up and being nasty with it?
I think people were crazy duelists, like
I think if individual players,
stuff like that. Aspas maybe to an extent, like those kind of players. Yeah,
I guess
any kind of crack duelist.
Ape shit on this.
Isn't the obvious choice Primy as well?
I mean, yeah, Primy.
If he's playing Duelist.
He must be playing
I mean, he
now.
must be with the roster changes.
Yeah, he's locked in.
I don't know.
Dude, look at that recall there, though. That is tragically shit. Putting it down in the open like that. Yeah, but
Dambi as well. Dambi's a decent shout.
Dambi?
He's a lunatic.
Dambi that's true. Is a lunatic. Yeah, and that team does like doing it, but I think it's going to be a set play kind of. It's going to be the nerdy teams that like cooking up a lot of set play kind of ideas.
Yeah,
they're going to gravitate towards this. Okay, so Achilleos demonetized us earlier on, but that's not a problem. That's not. Well, I think probably.
We need VAR.
Yeah, we'll need to get the Sliggy VAR out. Give him the yellow card.
Yeah.
But that's not as much of a problem this week, because this episode is thankfully sponsored by new Duelist Waylay announced at Bangkok.
Head over to new Duelist Waylay announced at Bangkok.
You can use code Waylay. No, it's sponsored by Factor Meals again. Appreciate the people at Factor Meals for sponsoring the podcast. They allow us to be able to put on the show every week. So factormeals.com/Valorant50off to get 50% off your first box. As I'm sure you know, if you've been watching these shows for a while, Factor have been doing a nice job of supporting us for a while, and appreciate you engaging with them to help us continue the sponsorship. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well very easy, dietitian-approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, and much cheaper than ordering takeaway food. So if you're interested, take a look over at the website and take a look at the code. They've got tons of different dietary preferences, and again, they're just a lot more cost efficient than if you're ordering takeout all the time, which I know that half of you are because you're gamers. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Valorant50off. Use code Valorant50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That is code Valorant50off at factormeals.com/Valorant50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Okay, let's get into the games then that happened at Masters Bangkok, shall we? So let's start by taking a look at our power rankings, because they were...
Thank God Bren apologized for this.
What's mad about this is, though, the community reaction to them when we first made them was, this is one of their best in a while. Like, rare W power ranking from Plat chat. And then it's probably one of the shittiest that we've done.
And
in fact, this wasn't even the finished result.
No, but this is before. This was, if I remember rightly, this was before Bren and Shio moved the team, right?
Yeah.
If you go back to that cut, though, if you go back to that image, apart from T1, G2 a second, EDG a third. Okay, Sen.
But Sen is mad overrated here. Mad overrated.
Okay, Sen you got wrong, but like,
Team
Liquid and DRX are right. Trace is right.
I mean,
you could put Trace 8,
but also,
but, you know,
I would say getting DRX correct here is almost wrong as well, because I would say that they like choked a bit. They looked great at the beginning of the tournament, and then they fell off a little, and it's almost like, I think it's almost a discredit to have expected that.
They lost to the champions. DRX clearly should have been your like number 3 rated team.
I see.
Oh yeah, they played really well in that game against T1. They played really well.
No, and T1 was just that good. That's why they went on to win the whole damn thing.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
This is what happens when you don't have a specific representation on the power rankings.
I still will back that anyone that put T1 in the top 4 before this before this tournament doesn't understand Valorant.
I would say putting T1 above 6th, but like having watched the games, like if anyone put them above 6 before the tournament started,
I think you could put them 5th, 6th. I could understand that.
Fifth. You'd have to put them a lot of good teams. I don't think they looked better than Liquid or DRX heading into the event. I think it would be fine to have Sentinels and Trace underneath them. But I'm struggling there to come up with another team.
But if you thought Pacific was the strongest region, then you would put like DRX like 2nd, and then you would have T1 like
no
5th,
one's got
6th.
DRX 2nd, even if they thought Pepper.
I agree. I'm just trying to
okay,
see it
we've
from
got
other
the
people's
literal
views.
one man.
Did you
who
have
might
DRX
done
2nd,
this.
Seth?
Yeah. I
You had them above
win this
G2 or
fucking thing.
Vitality.
I had them above, I believe Vitality, and I had G2 on top.
Where did you have
Where
T1?
would you have put
that is
T1?
mad.
Yeah, where would you have put
being
T1?
honest, be honest.
T1 I put above Trace and Liquid.
Yes, the
There
same.
you
Yeah,
go.
that-
See,
Possibly
that's pretty
Sentinels. I
valid.
don't remember though.
I think you could make an argument for them being in 5th, but I think that showcases what a mad run this has been. It truly
for
is
sure.
an
Oh, they improved
absolutely
fast.
incredible run.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna come on the show and be like, you fucking idiots, how did you not think T1 was gonna win? Because
I think you should have
it was the same thing. I'm very, very pleasantly surprised at the end of this all. I was angry when this list came out because like I said, I would have rated Trace below them. I would have rated Liquid below them because Liquid just always fucking chokes. So like, those would have been some of the change ups that I would have made. But for the most part, did I expect them to win this tournament? Absolutely not.
I actually thought they were one of the only teams that wouldn't be able to win the tournament. Like, if you had asked me at the beginning, who do you think you're confident can't win it? I would have been like, damn, almost anyone in this tournament can win. But I don't think Trace are going to be able to win. I don't think Sen are going to be able to win. And I don't think T1 are going to be able to win. Those would have been my 3 teams that I didn't think had a hope of winning, because I thought that it was too much to do with like, I thought T1 had the ability to be an upset team, but not the consistency. I just didn't believe that T1 were going to be able to put it together game after game after game.
Well, yeah, we've
And they
literally
just
never
did.
seen a team do that. Like in Valorant, we have not seen a team like you had like a Zeta division run as a big upset run, but they finished 3rd. And we see like upset runs that finish maybe 3rd. Has there even been like a big upset run that made it to the grand final?
I was trying to think about this, and I think EDG at Last Champions could have
Yeah,
been that
maybe.
if they then underperformed this year. And we'll go on to talk about EDG later on, but like what they did at the beginning of this tournament looked like they kept the same form of Last Champs, and then it fell off a cliff. But we can have that discussion. But I think EDG at Champs was some of that, like
Closest, yeah.
a bit of they came out of nowhere. Obviously, they didn't come out of completely nowhere, and they'd made a roster change, so there was like reasons that you could point towards.
EG in Tokyo, maybe.
Yeah, EG kind of.
But then they did it again afterwards, so it's
No,
not
but like
like
going
it was a
into
fluke.
Tokyo, people
Yeah.
wouldn't have thought that they
Oh,
would
absolutely,
have been that good. Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's the next, like that's the Cinderella run that you got to point to, is EG at Tokyo. Which, by the way, they didn't win Tokyo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this one from T1 is absolutely bonkers. Can I hit you with a hot take though? And this
Sure.
is gonna sound so salty.
All right.
Oh boy.
I'm so with you.
Oh,
already. I know what
God,
you're
don't
gonna
say
I'm
it,
so
John.
with you.
Oh,
I
enough
was
of
been
it.
thinking
Go on,
the
say
same
it.
thing.
The best team of the event did not win.
Okay.
And that's okay. Sometimes the best team of the event is not going to win. But I'm saying genuinely the team that performed the best the entire event did not win. I
thought you were going to say that Vitality and EDG shit themselves as T1 came to play them. And T1
No,
were
no,
kind
no.
of
No, I'm not
granted a perhaps easier path than otherwise people might have thought, because those two teams played arguably their... Maybe it wasn't EDG's worst game, it was Vitality's worst game. And maybe you can credit T1 for part of that too, and they did destroy them, so fair enough. But those teams did shit themselves.
Honestly, I don't even agree with that. I think that T1
Really?
dismantled Vitality. I think Vitality have got a lot of learning to do from their game, and I think that they exposed a lot of the problems in it. But I do think that G2, over the course of basically the grand final in my head is like exactly 50-50 between the two teams. They both had 3 championship points, and T1 ended up being able to clutch it out at the end, which is amazing for T1. Like, at the end of the day, they won the event. They're the team that takes home the trophy, right? But over the course of the entire tournament, you can't be selling me that T1 were the better team than G2.
They look dependent on maps. Because this was my whole thing the whole time. Because I actually kind of view T1 a little bit similar to Liquid, whereas like they only have like 4 maps where they're consistently really good, and it's the double duelist maps. And it looked like they could beat anyone on those maps, or like face anyone on those maps. But then, if you include the other maps and Bind, I never know what version I'm gonna get of T1 on Bind. But so yeah, if you're looking at a 7-map pool, I don't think they had the strongest 7 maps out of the whole tourney. But I think if you look at the 4 maps that they were gonna get everyone in playoffs, because they all kind of like the same map pool, I think they were probably the better on those maps, or at least like one of the better teams on those maps.
I mean, the counter argument to that take as well is that G2 literally had the map veto and didn't beat it.
Yeah, but when I was looking at that map
they got rid of that.
I thought like, oh, T1 have actually got apart from Abyss, of course.
They kept their 4 in.
Yeah, they kept all of their best maps in the pool, right? Basically. Yeah. I guess you could argue that maybe T1 are looking pretty good on, well, I don't know, T1 are a bit crazy
even before this event, the only maps that T1 looked rough at was when they played like a conventional comp and Meteor was back on Sentinel. Those are the maps where they looked rough. When they played the double duelist, even at the beginning it looked good. Like and again, I think they only had like 4 good maps going into it. But you look at the 4 teams that are left at the end, they all liked the same maps. That was like everyone's 4 favorite maps. But I think they were better at these maps. Apart from maybe Lotus, but I still think that Lotus was alright for a T1, really.
The core of what I'm trying to get at, though, is that I view this tournament as an upset result, like a serious upset result, because not only do I think that T1 went on a run, but I can't think of any tournament ever in Valorant where I've thought about the winner at the end and thought, I think they actually were the second best team of the event. It doesn't matter what tournament it's ever been. I've always thought about the team at the end as being, yeah, I think that they proved that they were the best team at the event there. Because of what they've done over the course of the entire double elim system. And I came off the end of this one, and I was like, goddamn T1, holy shit, what a run. But I still think G2 are better.
But yeah, I mean, I
honestly,
that
would be an interesting question to ask the community. I think most people would still say G2 are a better team than
There's no way. No. There's no shot if you ask the community. Everybody remembers the most recent game. Everybody is going to say T1 are better.
Well, then they're trolling.
No,
they are just trolling.
That's just how, dude. The fucking Valorant community. What did I tell you before we went live? There was
again. If we got to replay that game right now, G2 versus T1, and you blanked the people's memory, and we just played it now, and I got people to bet their life on who they think would win, most people would bet G2.
I can't remember what the.
It depends if you see the map pool. That would be my argument. It depends if you see the map pool. I remember looking at the map pool when it came in, and I was like, oh, okay, this is now just a straight up like T1 got their best maps. They can easily win this.
I was in on T1 before we saw the map draft, and I'll lay down my life. I'll lay down my life again. Let's fucking go. Hey, you know what? Went through the whole tournament. I was the member of cast who had the most correct predictions. It was me and then Ender, and we decided. Well, I mean, he knew I was going to go T1 anyway, but he went for G2 in the final. I went for T1. Boom, big brain over here.
Yeah,
just new.
Yep. And if Korea had won a previous event, you would have also had the best predictions because you.
That's true.
Should we go back through all the old DRX predictions?
Go through Shanghai. Probably did pretty decently there.
Yeah, we beefed these power rankings, but you know what? Now that I was thinking about it as well, Ascend winning 2021 champions has got to be on a similar level to this as well, right?
Especially as they were out.
More.
Oh, yeah.
Like they were out, and then there was the bug.
Yeah,
that made that it had to be a rematch.
I mean, that's
the reincarnation. Yeah, that's never.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that probably is the biggest upset. But were they winning back then? No, yeah, because we beat them at home grounds. No, yeah.
And Gambit was massively
champion.
favorited.
Yeah, Gambit was the champion from the.
I completely forgot that Ascend won that final. In my head, I was just like, yeah, it was Gambit-nAts and the channels. They won that shit.
That's wild.
Yeah. I just completely forgot that Ascend was a thing. Sorry, TMD.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't won much before that.
Okay. I'd like to go. We're still going to talk about T1, G2, all of those games, but I want to go back through the tournament, starting from the bottom up. So talking about the teams that went out first, and then working our way back to talking about T1 and G2. Let's talk Trace to start with. We were fairly high on Trace because I think mostly of the unknowns. We expected with those multiple extra weeks off that they would have retooled some stuff. We liked their bind composition. This was the worst international performance ever from a team at a global event. They won the least rounds of any team ever, including Havan Liberty, Zeta Division, Fnatic when they had to play with 2 subs, Crazy Raccoon back in the day when they got 13-0'd by Gambit. This was the worst performance by round win rate of all time.
Well,
and they
one team
didn't
didn't
pick
show up
bind.
to one tournament.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
That's true, yeah.
Bren Esports, after their owner was on the run for selling cocaine and meth or whatever the hell it was. But I was boggled by this. They didn't even play bind.
Dude, don't okay, yeah. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, first of all, the G2 game. I'll give you the G2 game. That's fine. And then you go against T1, and
The map
you
draft
you decide to pick the map
Lotus,
that
yeah.
they're going to
Lotus.
pick. Like, I guarantee, if we saw the actual like map vetoes, you would literally seen like Autumn being like, wait, why? That's our map. We were going to pick that. And then so they were just like, well, you've picked our best map. Sure, we'll have Haven as well. And it's like, just fucking pick bind. You're one of the best bind teams. You've got a new comp that no one plays against in any other region apart from China. Pick it. It's your best map. Don't pick the map that they're undefeated and no one's got more than 10 rounds against them. I don't get what they're doing. And even Stacks in the interview was just like, yeah, thanks for picking our best map. Like, mate, the players are thanking you. And like, I've seen the videos of the coaches going mental at his players being like, if you don't want to win, mate, you don't want to win. Why are you picking Lotus? Fucking crazy. One of the worst moves I've seen veto-wise ever in the history of Valorant.
Yeah.
How
Tracy loves these kind of
long?
things.
How long, Sliggy, you in a room with the coach's destroyer? How long until you can fix that? How many hours? How many days?
I can't even. It's like they didn't look at the maps of the other team. I wish I remember what he said in the interview as well, because he was just like, yeah, we're just like testing it out or something. He said in the midway thing, or like, we're just testing to see the result. And it's like, mate, it's a fucking Masters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get what's
game
going
Masters. Let's test.
on there. Yeah.
They also didn't change any of their compositions to pick up new, more meta stuff heading in. They just played the same old stuff that we knew wasn't going to work, but we were holding out that they would have done good anti or good comp changes or something. Like, this was
Everything
one
on
of
an
the most
individual
disappointing
level, though.
performances ever.
They looked way below par individually as well. Like Feng, you watch him in China.
He
and
looked
it's like,
off.
Yeah, but he looked awful in this tournament. Like he just couldn't win many fights. And who was it that was on C during this whole some of the Lotus games? Who was it on C that was sleeping half the time? I don't remember which one of them it was.
I've blanked it out of my
I
memory.
think it was Hey
mate.
Bay.
I can't.
Hey, Bay.
Yeah, I can't
Just
see because
just
Josh is
sleep.
blocking the thing. But
Hey Bay's deadlock is so good on bind as well. Didn't get to see it. At all.
They would have won bind. Like, I find it so mental. Yeah, it was just a weird tournament for them. Like, I remember because I was talking about a lot about EDG and everyone's saying like for Chinese New Year and stuff, and I was like, well, you can tell that someone from EDG was at least working in like during like Chinese New Year, whether it was probably the coach, to be honest, because they had new comps and it made a lot of sense. You could tell they had other like that. You could tell they had more time. But Trace, I believe that they actually did take like 2-3 weeks off, because I mean, you would hope so with what they displayed. There was nothing new. There was nothing, like literally nothing. It looked like the players hadn't played the game for a while.
Yeah, that was a brutal. It's gonna reinforce the take that China's a one-team region like crazy hard. And this was the first year that we were.
Is it a mad take?
I don't know. I mean, I was watching Chinese Kickoff thinking this region's actually heating up a little bit. Like, the top 5 teams are looking competitive, which I've never thought before. I've thought maybe the top 2 or maybe 3. But looking at this, it's rough to throw them fail.
Oh, dude, you can't. Yeah, I don't think you can argue it, because even at Champs, the only reason they won is because they had 2 good maps, and then they had 2 good maps here, and they just decided not to pick one of their maps.
It's true though. It's true. Like Trace, they love being involved in troll map vetoes, whether it's the other team or them. That if in Champs it was other teams trolling, giving them their good maps, and in this it's them trolling, giving T1, a good map for them. It is disappointing though, and you're right. The narrative of like, China just a one-team region. And the thing is, we were, I think, somewhat basing off like some of our hope for Traces. Oh, the grand final, apart from map 4, was very competitive. And so and Trace had beaten EDG before. So it's like, oh, maybe there's, they're like pretty close to EDG. Maybe not quite as good, but pretty close. And so, if we had a performance that was, pretty close to EDG, you're looking at a team that maybe, would have won a game, but maybe went out like 5th, 6th or something, but been competitive, right? Instead, we just got a dick flattening.
Yeah.
Give me Billy Billy. Give me Billy Billy back on the international stage. I can trust in Coach Bile to not at least like completely troll a draft.
Can you?
Yes. He's a CS legend. That man knows what he's doing. He can do a draft.
Let's move on to another disappointment then. Sentinels. Sentinels lost all but one map in Bangkok. They also had, I think there were 2 matches that ended up being very memorable from Bangkok. One is the grand finals. Amazing grand finals. Like one of the best we've ever had. The other is Nats taking a giant dump all over Sentinels. And unfortunately, it didn't end 13-0. If it had been a 13-0, then I think it would have genuinely been legendary. But if you take a look at Bind, what did he have? 455 ACS.
Wild performance.
Just single-handedly destroyed them. Panic has 3 kills.
I can't see exactly what the ADR is. Is that 287 or it's like 289 or something like that? It's a little pixelated on my screen.
It's insane.
It's a Viper. That is just... He needs to be tried for war crimes. This was unacceptable. Like, this should never happen.
It was like going back in time, though. It was like going in a time machine to 2021, where it's like only one guy knows how to actually play the game. Like, no one else has actually touched the game before, and they're all just coming in, and then you've just got this guy. It's like watching, some sports videos of, Ronaldo dresses up as an old man and, plays in a 5-a-side game. It was like that.
You ever watch that video of it? It's like 100 children versus 3 professional football players. That's what it felt like, because the football players crushed those fucking kids. Like they just basically kicking them out of the way. It felt like that, except it was just one guy, and it was Nats.
This was the round. This was the
one. I couldn't believe
this
it.
one.
You say this is the round, but honestly, there was about many, 3 going up before this. Yeah, but this was the one which is just like you could tell there. I mean, they were probably demoralized from Abyss anyway. Because Abyss was the map where it's like they should have won it, and honestly, because I think they won double pistol, and then there was loads of rounds, like the B retakes and the B holds on the sites. I was losing my mind for both teams, to be honest, with what was going on. But this was crazy. How no one is covering the spike here is fucking criminal. There's so many bad rounds for them to look at. You can just tell there's just a lack of. I mean, even Zelsa said it. Like there's a bit of lack of trust of like the team, and just like mate. Like, how is the flash hits? It goes behind triple. It can only hit a limited amount of positions, and no one's going to hold the spike. Like this is wild. Unless it was some kind of anti, but I don't even.
No,
I don't even. No, but like they could have thought the Nats was somewhere else because of rotates. But like, did the flashes hit? Like I can't even. Like normally I can bail teams out. I'm just look at this one. It's fucking atrocious.
Yeah, they're not set up to cover at all from a player towards bench or triple. They've got one person watching lamps, one person on top of short watching towards like default, and then one person John is just sat at back short, like just waiting for the post plan. Like, all right, guys, I got my salvo. It's rough to watch. But they looked bad. So Sentinels looked genuinely pretty bad, I would say. There were very few good signs from the team. It wasn't like what they showcased against MIBR or G2 in Americas.
Like even the first game was
pretty bad,
right? Like the DRX, picking Lotus, like that game was full of littered with mistakes as well. So whilst this is the thing though, like they could have won on Abyss, and I do think about this sometimes. How maybe our narrative would slightly change had they closed out Abyss and it's 2-0 and you never get to see this.
Yes, of course.
Our narrative would change of how their tournament went, even if they did get eliminated straight afterwards. But with this and the fact that the first game as well also was quite bad. And the thing is, like, you know, we come up with the narratives of like, oh, maybe, you know, if it's an inexperienced team, we say, oh, it's their first time on an international, or if, you know, it's a team that generally does choke, oh, it's their first, like, but this is a team that won a Masters last year. You know, they've still got 3 of the same players. The other 2 players have also been to internationals before. Like, there doesn't seem to be like much of a reason necessarily that this should have happened to them, but it did.
They definitely melted in certain situations, and I think when I was watching narrate in a lot of like the replays, it's way too emotional to be honest, to be like performing at a high level consistently. That's something that he definitely needs to work at. Like I'm seeing crazy emotions going through him, that he definitely for sure needs to work on. I don't know. It was a bad performance, but it's still not. I think it was just too early for this team, really. Like it just felt a little bit too early. Map wasn't great, so a lot of times they had to play a map they weren't that good at.
Do you see them getting a lot better?
Well, Abyss goes out, and I don't think they're good at Abyss, so that's good. And then Bind goes out, and they got absolutely flattened on Bind, so it's probably good. It's just the fact that they have a little bit less time, and that Americas is very competitive, so they might have a rough time. But I still think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, like, kind of based on what was being discussed, it seems like it's maybe something external, like with them not quite having that trust in game. That's usually something that I think can be solved outside, whether it's, you know, with discussions, team building, you know, that kind of stuff. Sit downs with Kaplan and such. And I'll continue to always, you know, glaze Kaplan. I think that he's a really smart guy. I think that he's a really good coach. And I think that if I trust that he's going to be able to try to like get things aligned. But this was a really weird look. I don't know what kind of spurred this whole thing, whether it was just like getting bodied in scrims and they weren't building confidence and then not trusting in each other because of this, that, and the other thing. I'm hoping that with a little bit more downtime as they get ready to go into stage 1 after the early exit, that it's going to be cleaned up a lot more, because this isn't the Sen that we saw at the end of Americas, and this isn't the Sen that we should be seeing. So I have faith that they'll be able to kind of run it back.
There was a clip from Zekken where he was talking about the team and what they like, reviewing some of their performance at Bangkok, talking about some of the stuff that they needed to alter, which I think Kurt has a clip for. So we can
I
pull
think
that
this
one up.
is right after they lost. Zekken talks to the team here.
The press conference thing, yeah.
This fucking blows. But I'm gonna say some stuff and it's gonna be kind of harsh. But if I don't say it right now, it's gonna eat at me. And the things that I say apply to me as well. I'm not just yelling at you, like lashing out at you guys. Like, it also applies to me. But like, truly, we should be fucking embarrassed and disgusted with how bad we looked. Like, there were so many rounds that we threw, and this series should have been an easy 2-0. And even when we're at our, like, it should also be a bit positive that, like, even when we looked this shit, it should have been a 2-0. But like, truly, we looked completely fucking terrible. And I think our biggest thing is we have no adaptability. Like, Cap can give us a bunch of game plans, and Amin can micro us however much he needs to, but when we're in a situation that we haven't seen 100 times already, we just fucking crumble and freak out and lose. And that's gonna be the biggest thing going forward. Like, we can go back in VOD and be like, this round's never gonna happen again, this round's never gonna happen again, this round's never gonna happen again, but this whole fucking game is rounds that will never happen again. Being able to adapt and do shit on the fly in the moment and do it together, that's what makes the good teams good, and we just don't have that right now. And
Bars.
Yeah.
Honestly,
very succinct and
bars.
very true.
Yeah,
It's
because
also-
yeah, go on, Slicky.
I was gonna say it's also a good sign though. The teams that we call this empty in the bag, like teams that can actually just express everything that is on in their head. Because even if it's just like a little thought in your head, something that maybe you think someone would take offensive, but like you're obviously all trying to improve, you just empty all your thoughts out of the bag and everyone's just open, and then they talk about pretty much what he's just saying, like just little things that are like annoying him, or because you could tell in like maybe in previous VOD reviews from them, they've gone over rounds and been like, oh, this wouldn't happen again, or like in an official, we would never do this, but it's happening there. So it's like, it's cool that we get to kind of see that side of. It's cool that first of all they implement this, and it's cool that like we get to kind of see that it is so open, and I think as long as everyone's mentally in the right place and they know that this is just for the benefit of the team, like this is a really good sign.
I also appreciate that even though they are doing that venting process, that they're not, like, Zekken's prefacing it with a lot of caveats that don't make it sound like he's attacking the rest of his team.
Yeah.
And it's all designed so that other people don't get defensive about it and actually engage with what you're saying, which is very good emotional maturity for somebody who's as young as Zeka, but we've known that the whole time. But I think that's something that a lot of teams really fuck up when they try to implement this kind of system. They're like, all right, we're just going to get it all off our chest. And someone's like, you played like shit that game, you little cunt. And it's like, right, well, maybe I didn't articulate myself properly. We do have to get things off our chest, but not in a way where we're attacking each other.
It's a fine line. You definitely got to be careful what you say. But like little things really, like once a seed is like planted in a team, it can really get out of control. So it's good to just like squish that stuff early and talk about it. Like openly.
What do you think about Zekin's actual point, though, that part of the, or not even part of, but one of the biggest problems with them is that they are unable to improv, audible, and figure stuff out on the fly? These are kind of situations where a lot of the time you don't pre-plan stuff. You don't even comm everything you're doing to each other. You just have the reps together and the knowledge to be able to improv in certain moments. For example, I'm thinking about like when you watch G2, they play with a crazy amount of what do you say, Seth? Sorry.
I said Jonah P and Trent.
Right,
basically.
yeah. They do. They seamlessly sync stuff together, but they also play with a lot of composure even when they're under a lot of pressure. They don't scramble, they don't panic, they just calmly, like there was a crazy round where they were playing on Haven. Defense shoves like huge amounts of util into them. I can't remember who it was against. EDG, T1, something like that. They're like throwing Aftershock down C long, and they all just calmly dodge the Aftershock, swing, take their fights. Do you think that is the major problem with Sentinels?
I think when you go back and watch, like again, I'm thinking about that DRX Lotus game. DRX, I think, came out with their new like comp, you know, the Yoru Teo breach that they played on every map. And you know, I'm thinking about like, you know, the like Mako double TP stuff that they were doing, and I can just imagine having heard that like, you know, that's something that they hadn't shown before, and it's like, whoa, what's this? Or even like Nats, you know, going with maybe a little bit of an atypical setup on bind on A, right, where he's putting both the orb and the wall across A, and I'm thinking of like little things like that. As Seth shows us his beautiful picture from 2019. I'm thinking of little things like that.
Sorry.
Like that.
I was blowing my nose and sparing you guys from the vision of that.
Well, now it's even worse, because now like I'm picturing...
I mean, I'm just blowing my fucking nose. Like, what are you imagining is happening?
No, well, that's the thing. If you just show it, it's probably not that bad. But in my head...
TMV doesn't understand what blowing your nose means. He's imagining somebody sucking a nose. Like,
yeah. Oh, perfect.
Dude.
Make a clip it. Make a GIF.
Be played on the internet.
Yep, that's going in. That's going into the GIF file.
Sucking.
Anyway, yeah, I think Sen might struggle with adapting.
Yeah, because I think it's a really good point that you bring up. That the teams they played against did show a lot of new stuff against them. That double TP from Mako, never seen anybody do that before. It absolutely fried their brains. And then the setups from Nats are weird on the attack and defense side. Like, he does a totally different wall on the attack side as well. If you're not ready for it, like the Mako stuff you couldn't have seen in VODs, but you could have seen the Nats stuff.
Sure, but I don't think they're addressing those rounds, because those rounds are the easy ones. It's more that I think when I look at that video, that's more just the rounds that they're losing, like after plant or retake over towards A on Abyss. Like if I'm Sentinels, I'd look at this and I go, yeah, they're using new comp, using new stuff, that's fine. And similar with the bind, you got wrecked so easy that you can get it out of there. But you look at that Abyss and you're just looking at all of these rounds that they would have played so many times, and because they're so, in my opinion, emotional and something like how you wouldn't be in when you're playing practice, they're all just panicking and doing stuff that they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the video of Narrate, you know, where they both jump and they like block each other.
Yes.
If you look at the 5-second replay of Narrate, he's going through about like 100 different emotions, all in the space of like 5 seconds, and it's like, dude's not in the. Dude needs to stay like proper in the present, and I can see his mind going everywhere. And like when that happens and someone's not in the present, and it just snowballs into chaos. And then these rounds that you played all the time, you're doing some weird stuff that you don't need to do.
Do you think that Sentinels is the kind of team that should be opting into the double duelist stuff that T1 played more of?
They could.
What, with Narrate
They
as
absolutely
the
could.
second duelist?
Yeah, I think so.
I think with some of the changes that are going on at the moment as well, I think if anything, ISO is maybe a little bit more viable than when people were using him as well. So I think they definitely could.
One of the things that they appear to be missing right now is that they used to do a lot of strategies that revolved around Zekken and Tens going in together on entries with the Omen, or even with the KO, kind of, but the Omen's the one that I'm thinking of. And Tens and Zekken are both players that can adapt pretty well under chaotic situations. I don't really know who that second person is now on this team.
Yeah, I think one thing that we're starting to see as well is maybe just like how much impact like Sassy had as well. Maybe instead like more like hidden impact in terms of just like the team and decision making. Because he was always a rock. He really never messed up like that much. He maybe just lost some jaws that maybe you would expect him to win. So I do think that that's starting to like show a bit more light of maybe just how much he was actually doing like within the team that was maybe not seen on the scoreboard.
Let's move on to a team that ended up beating Sentinels, but I would say still fell flat a little bit, and that's DRX. So, sorry. No, let's talk Liquid. That's a great.
Well,
that
that
also
going in order.
perhaps.
No, I know.
I
thought you were talking about Liquid. They did.
No, I messed up.
All
we
right.
were supposed to talk about Liquid next. I messed up my my segue because I forgot about Liquid. So let's talk Liquid first, and then we can talk DRX. Kurt, sorry for throwing you around here. But yeah, Liquid, they did. So, I mean, the toss almost works anyway, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
I thought you'd been a little harsh, but yeah.
to be honest, I think that would be a little bit harsh of Liquid. I think it's adequate to say that DRX underperformed a little bit in terms of what their results, but I don't really see. I wasn't disappointed with what I saw from Liquid at this event. I think they just got outplayed. Yeah,
they
just
got a
getting
tough
unlucky.
draw. They got a tough draw of EDG and then G2 in the elimination game, I think. But I do think they could have played better. You know, I think they did show better in EMEA than they did at Bangkok. So you know that. But then again, like they're one of these teams that you know they are a very inexperienced team that probably wasn't expecting to go to Bangkok, and you know will probably come away from the experience, you know, leveling up somewhat from it. It was very clear that they had the map pool issue of what was it, Pearl or Lotus? Like they could ban one of them, but the other was a free win for their opponent, essentially.
Yeah.
And obviously that's putting you at a pretty significant disadvantage when you're 1-0 down.
It was so funny seeing their opening game and seeing Liquid play against EDG. Both teams running brand new compositions on Pearl, and what you get is basically G2 playing against Sentinels. They just yoinked comps from the Americas teams. But the second half, Liquid completely didn't know what they were doing, and EDG did. It was like a massive difference in terms of execution here with the comps that you'd selected.
You could tell it from, I think it was like the 5th rounds where maybe it was like the 5th round, or it was like the 3rd time that they went aggro over towards middle with like the chamber and the Euro, and it was just like the 3rd time they did it, and they did it against an eco. I was like, oh, this strat book is crazy thin right now. This is like a whole day of play. And then it got to, they lost pistol, second pistol, and then they did the weird force spy. And as soon as I saw the force spy, I was like, oh, you guys don't have much faith in this one. Because even though like the scoreline was like relatively close, it might have been like 6-9 or something, like 6 something. And then they started carry on going aggro middle, and I was just like, as soon as I saw that buy, I was like, oh, they have no faith in this. Like they just don't have the reps, they don't have the confidence.
But if Team Liquid had been able to beat EDG map 1, because this is map 2 of the series,
and they should have.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wild OT game where EDG had to pull out some mad shit to get back in. But do you really think they should have? Because I feel like both teams were throwing mad stuff.
Play 11-11 is.
Oh, you mean the Kamek pull?
Yeah, you're telling me.
Is that one?
Yeah, you're telling me they shouldn't have won that?
There was a lot of silly moments this tournament, wasn't there?
I think anyone who says that they shouldn't have won in regulation didn't watch the game. They should have won split, no doubt. 11. It's 11-11
So I guess it was
for split, and it's like after plan.
It's the round where Team Liquid sucked.
Yeah, it was.
That is then, yeah.
No, I mean, but you know, on multiple levels, that is a correct statement.
That's very true. But there was so many crazy moments like this. This wasn't the only one throughout the tournament. This was happening kind of over and again in this event. Even when you get to like the grand finals, the amount of 1vx's or crazy clutches that are happening and errors. But yeah, this one's.
Yeah. I think someone else was asking me about like the skill level of this in comparison to 2024 champs. And I think my answer was that you could tell that there had been like a new meta and some like changes going in, like in terms of the 2 new agents, just because it was one of the sloppier masters in terms of rounds. But this, like, Liquid should have taken this to a third map. This is pretty criminal.
So I saw a lot of people taking the piss out of Kamek, and obviously Kamek's going on the round the world flank here, so he's not going to put down his star now because he's going to miss the timing potentially. He's going to try to get a free
he gets
kill.
seen here and then puts it down.
Yeah, he puts it down here. Now he puts it down where you would expect you to put the star based on the plant being tucked in the corner, but obviously that's troll because the plant isn't in the corner, and you can see that on the astral. Plane.
It's the Astra's fault.
But is it? It's not the world's worst mistake. It just has the world's worst consequence.
It has the worst consequence.
When was the last time you saw a missed Astra suck?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
For me, the main thing is just them not being able to identify that Smoggy was there as well. Like, they didn't realize that there was 2 players there, because otherwise Nats would have just been spamming. Because if you have the grav going off and you're going to pull them off the defuse, why wouldn't you just be spraying into the smoke anyway? I think they just had no fucking clue that there was 2 players back there.
Yeah, but even if they hit the pull just does the job anyway, doesn't it? And then you wait for the second tap.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, they didn't. I think the main crux is them not identifying that 2 players were there to begin with, because when he does spray, he kills the one guy who's not defusing. So it just seems like they had no clue that Smoggy was also in this position.
No, see,
so the star doesn't help at all, and in fact, it ends up fucking them in the end. But them not identifying the position of both players is ultimately what fucks them over here.
I'm pretty sure they did. They just had faith that the Astra suck would stop him from defusing.
You got a fucking gun, shoot into the smoke. If he's getting grab pulled, you can just pull him. You know where the center of the star is going to be. Just shoot at the center of the star.
Was it which game was it where we saw the? Was it G2 playing against T1 in the finals where they got the Sylvan gets the defuse
at 9 HP? Yes.
Yeah, God, that one's bad as well. There were a lot of spots like this. Considering that we're in a fairly heavy post plant meta, there's just been quite a few of those.
That one was, I mean, obviously for G2, probably way more frustrating, but that one made a little bit more sense than this to me, because in that round, Yoru flash comes out, hits whoever's at art in the face. It offsets the crosshair. I think it was Leaf. Offsets his crosshair. He ends up shooting above Sylvan, and then I think it's like Trent at main is just like strafing, spraying, and then his bullets are just happening to just whiz right past, Sylvan. Like he's from the start of fucking Pulp Fiction, where the dude where they don't get shot.
Yeah. It is a disastrous mistake. Do you think it changes the whole tournament for Team Liquid, though, this one? Because if they do win, if they win split, they're going to bind. Let's assume they still lose on Pearl. It's still the same effect there.
They would, yeah.
They go to bind. I think Liquid... I think Liquid are in a good spot to win.
Yeah. I
think bind against EDG. It'd be a close game, though.
After what we had seen at this event, I would say most people would say that Liquid are favored on bind here. Like if you look at the bind of this tournament,
it's not a guarantee though, is it?
Not a guarantee. It's like maybe a 55-45. It's EDG. You would never give them too little than that.
Yeah, but definitely could have put Liquid through instead of I don't even know who. It's impossible to tell, isn't it? Because of the Swiss system, who the other loser of that situation would be. I don't feel that bad about Team Liquid.
I don't feel that bad. I think rough map veto coming in. I think they, like TMB said, they were always going to lose a map pretty much no matter who they played. And then with that, they still managed to have some close games, which they could have. And I guess they did win against Sentinels. Roughing for them is like, I guess Abyss and Bind are going out. It's arguably like 2 of their better maps.
Yeah.
So they're in a pretty bad spot right now, playing catch up and that. But I don't know. I saw some good stuff from them, to be honest, and like I'm not, especially when Nats is fragging out like this. They look great.
That's an icebox.
Yeah,
that could be cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams, like at the end of the tournament for a lot of teams was pretty disappointing. I mean, most of the teams. I think Liquid is one where you can say it was okay. You know, they could have done a bit better, but it was okay.
And you could see like the thought process. You could see like, okay, we got 2 bad maps, but we're going to be vetoing like one, and then we're going to try and fast fix the other. And you could see the fast fix and the fact that they probably had 1-2 days to practice it, so the map Stratberg wasn't big enough.
I don't know. I get scared. I was just gonna say I get scared having this kind of thought about Liquid, where it's just like, you know, overall it wasn't too bad. Because it makes me, for whatever reason, have this feeling that they're just not going to make another international this year. I've watched this organization choke and fail to qualify for internationals across multiple esports for so many times, and for whatever reason, I have this feeling in my stomach that it's like that's it. That's going to be the year.
That wouldn't be too crazy, though. I actually think that's entirely possible because Toronto, there's only 3 teams that end up going, and we're expecting other teams to bounce back after rough performances, like Heretics, for example. I mean, there's other teams certainly that should be going toe to toe with Liquid, like Carmen Corp, like Fnatic, like Foot. So. I could see Liquid not making another event this year, but again, I actually don't even think that would be that bad for this team. Maybe my expectations are just low for the org and the roster overall, but I think that would still be all right.
I think from what we've seen, I think they would make champs, to be honest. Especially with how the rest of the EMEA is looking, I think that I think I've seen so much good stuff from the coaches that I've got good. I got good faith in them.
I think they should. There's been plenty of times where I feel like they should, but then they don't. I mean, I'm scarred.
Of the 8
I used to
teams,
work
you're
for them,
right.
and I'm
Of the
just
8
scarred
teams.
from the League of Legends days, and it's just it carried over into CS, and then it was happening in Valorant. And every time I start feeling like a little bit good about a Liquid roster, it always just tanks, and I'm like, fuck's sake.
Remember, for champs, it's all about points now. They got more points, and they're in the fucking sick group of. At the lower end of
group of glue.
Group of glue. Yeah, I mean they got a lovely groups. I think there's some not saying free points out there for champs points, but definitely free.
God, that is a good.
Dude, look
group,
at the left group compared to the
group.
right group. Holy shit!
Crap, that's a good
What
group.
happened here?
Dude,
What happened here is Liquid with a 2 seed.
This was the only draw they didn't do live, and it's like, imagine how sick this would have been to look at it live, because look at the left, it's crazy, especially if you're just thinking like org wise. Like,
okay,
it's wild.
But if Na'Vi play poorly, then the groups might end up being fairly even. Because if Giants and Apex were not playing that well.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think like potential of where people normally put the orgs or the teams, like it's stacked.
Yeah, it does look more stacked for sure.
Like if Liquid don't finish in the top 4 of that group,
something went wrong.
Something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah,
horribly
definitely.
wrong.
Clip this, and we'll see you guys in 2 months' time.
Let's talk DRX then. Let's move on to talking about them, because this team I feel very differently compared to Liquid, despite the fact that they're actually in a pretty similar boat. But I saw so much better stuff from DRX that when they weren't able to pull it out as much in their losses, it made me more disappointed. And I suppose this is exactly what we were talking about coming into the event. One of the reasons that we had talked about DRX being a little lower and being okay with that is because we expected the more rookie roster to have a bit of a choke. And I don't know about you, but this is exactly how I would define it, is that they had incredible ideas, really good ideas coming into the beginning of the tournament. And then I think the pressure got to them and they looked very limp in some of the high pressure moments in the Vitality game, but I'll give them a pass there because it's against really tough players. But they were 7-0. Well, no, they're not 7-0. The org is 7-0, but this team has beaten T1 so many times, and I think had better ideas than them, a better read on the meta than them as well, but wasn't able to actually in the big moments do anything against them. T1 really rose to the occasion.
Yeah, T1 battered them. I want to flame, but I'll let other people go first.
Okay. I was gonna say, like, I had higher expectations for the team, but in the end, like, I think I was initially kind of bummed that they went out the way that they did, and I thought that they, I was hoping they would be able to just take the series over Vitality because they definitely had the potential. Like they played them decently close, and then we just had to, cannibalize. And I think that once they had that initial loss, that's when it really started affecting the rookies a little bit more. You are staring at this record and this expectation of continuing to beat T1, and I think that's kind of what got to them. Overall, none of them were bothered or really upset by this. I mean, there was just like smiles on their faces when they lost to T1. And I think that part of that is softened by being like, okay, we lost to another Korean team. Let's just like, we can root for them. They're our brothers, they're our friends. It's Buzz and Stacks, whatever. But also,
I feel like that would make me more sick.
Yeah, that would make me like.
Well,
if I was Mako, I'd be like,
I mean, I think that when Mako has like a separation from somebody, he's able to maintain a healthy relationship with them still. So maybe that says something about you, TMV. But I think
that with my therapist. You're right. You're so right.
I think that you're just really good at being adults. But no, I think that I think that they all just get along so well, and I think that the team itself knew that they kind of needed to have this experience to then continue and to iterate and become stronger, because no team that just goes out and just like wins straight through a tournament is going to be able to do that every single time. You have to get I've always said this, like, if you want to get better at anything, especially like gaming or sports, like you have to get your ass kicked at that sport, at that game, to be able to improve, because people are always going to be catching up, and if you never get beaten by somebody, you'll never know what you need to improve on. I think for DRX, in the end, this is probably going to be a big positive for them, because I still fully trust in the players that they have. I fully trust in Mako's calling, and I really trust in Termi to continue to develop them. You can be salty.
It's time. It's time. Okay, well then, what I don't get about this team, and we've had, I talked about, there's three things where I want to go in on, like the team as a general, in terms of, we had the Trace one earlier, the veto of picking Lotus, and I think that something that went on here is not as bad as that, but it also doesn't make as much sense. They had really good Split, Abyss, Fracture. They came into this using a new comp. I get it for the other 4 maps. Why are you replacing your good maps with a new comp when your strat book's really thin? What's the point? Like, I get you think you found a comp that is like sick on every single map.
Sorry,
they changed it.
Rewind that a little bit.
Okay,
what's the?
So DRX came into this event being really good, like the best team on Abyss. Then they had a really good Fracture, and they had a really good Split. And then on those 3 maps, where honestly they could probably beat maybe all of the teams here with the original comps, they changed them into the new comp. 3 maps that you're already good at, they changed on every single map to do this Breach, Teo, was it Cypher, Yoru. Yeah, and it's like, you guys don't need to do that on your top 3 maps, and they lost Fracture and Split because of it. And it's like, you've just overcooked it. You set yourself so thin on every single map that you can't have a deep run in this tournament. Like, it is a really bad mistake.
I don't think that changing just the raise to the Yoru on Split lost them the game against Vitality.
I do.
Really? Why?
Yeah,
why is that?
They looked lost, because as soon as they realized that they couldn't TP to backup B, they were done. They had no backup. Their strat book was so thin, they didn't know what to do.
Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to what they were doing with Yoru on that map then. But I think, well, yeah. So what were the maps that you're talking about?
Fracture, Abyss, and Split.
Yeah, okay. And they did win on Abyss, right? They just didn't crush on Abyss. Yeah. It was,
and they
like
would have crushed on their normal Abyss. They're the best Abyss team in the world.
Yeah, they looked fantastic on it. Yeah.
But I think Sliggy's point, though, is like, that's the kind of move you would make if you were like, we're just going to use this tournament to get a bit of experience and dominate Split 1, because we'll be really good at this comp by then. Like, if you're trying to win the tournament, like, it wouldn't make sense to...
I don't know about that, though, because I think that they did also have an extremely good read on the meta. I think that the actual ideas that they had about how to play the comp and the comp itself, I thought was really good. I can see where you're coming from with strat pool depth, but I think that sometimes you have to make risks like that in order to win a tournament. Like, there are tournaments where we've looked back in the past and gone, well, this team won because they identified what was going on earlier than the other teams, they got ahead of it, and they cruised to victory because of it. When I was watching them play...
Right now, though, I think right now, though, there is a lot of good agents. Right, there's a lot of good agents. Like for instance, like let's take Bind, which is a map that they weren't that good at, and change to this comp. And you're playing solo Yoru attack on Bind with a Cypher. It's like, well, Vice is better than Cypher on Bind anyway, right? So like, and historically, solo Yoru just does, and they didn't look very good on Bind, right? And historically, solo Yoru hasn't been good on Bind. And there's so many good. It's not like Raze is shit. Raze is not shit. Raze is very good, right?
No.
And there are a lot of good agents.
But they're playing. I thought the game plan was extremely good on Bind.
No, I agree. They had some really cool stuff. They had
just didn't
the Mako
execute
double
it.
TP stuff is really cool. Like it was like, wow, what a great idea.
The comp cooks on Lotus.
Yeah, the comp
it's fucking insane on Lotus.
Like if they have ults, like good fucking luck trying to stop them because
I just think it might be a bit too hindsight to say you made the wrong decision to opt into this, thinking that it was the like right read on the meta because it.
But they don't have the time to do it. You don't have the time to do it. You got 10 days. You're trying to change your comp on 7 maps.
Yeah,
it's one maximum a day because you got to travel. You have 2 media days, and then you're playing. You can't expect to win maps multiple times when you're showing it, and you've had 1 day prac. You're probably not
especially
even
when
win
you're
the
already
first
good
time.
on some of those.
When
you're
already good. The master players doing the 4. Like I even think changing 4 up is crazy bold. To do all of the maps, I think it's way too much, and they didn't. It looks like they didn't like look at where their map pools were and went, these are our best. We should leave these. They just went, let's play this all over. Because I saw the lower stuff. The lower stuff was cool, and like you did the same stuff on Haven, where they're TPing towards the back, really cool. That stuff's good. Like your Mako looks great when it's doing the Duelist stuff. You just didn't need to do it on the other maps. The best Abyss team we've seen this year changing their Abyss. That's madness. They smashed T1 and Fracture. They actually played T1 before on Fracture. I think T1 won double pistol. Like they're one of the better teams on Fracture. Like it just didn't need to happen. It felt so unnecessary, and I could just see that everyone like looked, especially Flashback, looked crazy uncomfortable. I'm watching him on.
He did, yeah.
Like it just looked uncomfy.
No, he looked super uncomfortable on Fracture. I think he was making
Split.
so many mistakes. Yeah,
and like on Split, he's getting hit by the
the
fade eye, but it's also like they've only got one fucking setup because they're just using the comp that they've spent a day doing. So it's just like.
I mean, the Fracture, I think it was like round 22 or something, where he trips over towards Dish against T1, and the trip is slightly too low, and Meteor just hops over it, kills 2.
I mean, these are all
gets them to map point.
That's the thing. You play that in practice, and you would then put your trip there, and someone would do it, and the coach would go, "Mate, go on a server and show me that you can do this trip like 3 times in a row." And because they'd only had like 1 day, that trip's there. He's getting owned back of A site, on Split. Like those little things add up to just rounds that you lose, and it's all because they changed the comps, in my opinion.
And I think if you think about it from like a positive standpoint, like assume that DRX still would have been one of the better teams on their good maps, and they did change like their Lotus and Haven, which looked good in this tournament when they did change it. Like if you imagine that then they had 5 very good maps, like in this tournament, that's tournament winning. Like if you got 5 good maps, you can win a tournament with that, especially early in the season. So I think the thing is, it's like it is a bit of a what if, and like I say, it's kind of like it's almost a decision. Like obviously, Termi probably has just gone, this is the best comp. We're just gonna play it everywhere. Like they just fully believe this is the best.
Well, it looked insane when Hyunmin was just popping everybody on the entry too. And when he played against Sentinels,
but
he's
wouldn't he do that anyway?
absolutely hyper farming. Well, yeah, maybe actually, but he didn't. Crucially, in the final game against T1, and I think some of the parts of the game against Vitality as well, though I can't remember off the exact top of my head. But I remember he had a very rough game against T1. He got absolutely diffed in that one, and the mistakes from Flashback, the entry from Hyunmin was like. I attributed that more to the nerves of the situation of being unable to come up with.
They just took him off Raze. They took him off
Raze.
No, but he was popping so hard on Yoru early in the tournament. He was fucking dominating.
Sure, but when you had a whole day to play one map, you're not going to feel confident on a Yoru when you've just been told to play it on a map. Like that, you're talking like all your examples are maps where he's had multiple days of practice. This is going to be one.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You can't feel comfy.
I think though that they will still be very good
for sure
for the future. I'm still feeling very good about DRX. I just think it's like first event. I can see where coming from in terms of the coaches making the wrong decision in terms of the compositions, but I don't think that's not a thing that's going to happen at every event, right? So it doesn't really knock my confidence in them in the future for Masters events.
Yeah, this doesn't waver my faith in that. I mean, what could? But no, like after the loss, like I still trust in the system. I trust in the players. I think that they're going to be okay. Hyunmin's another one I didn't mention, but I could see him getting on Waylay and probably just going absolutely ape shit on people. Like he's a bit of a crazy guy, so I don't know.
Yeah, and he doesn't really use the op much as well. This is another thing. It's like the op normally when you're using Euros, like that's a thing that you would bring out. But he, like when I saw them opping, it was always flashback on Cypher. So I do think that like a Waylay for him, because I think it's more of a rifle send-it agent, could be great as well.
Especially with some of their set plays. Yeah.
And they do good stuff. Like the coaches have been proven to do good stuff. I'm not just trying to shit on them. Like they've done incredible stuff. I just think that they just maybe took it a step too far.
They were just a bit too ambitious. They bit off more than they could chew.
Too ambitious.
No, I think they were aiming for 5th, 6th again.
Like
what's our best chance of getting
like it's not hindsight, because even when they did their Abyss, and I'm just like, they shouldn't be doing this on Abyss. But like I know they won their Abyss, but like they would have won with the normal comp.
Yeah. Let's go talking about Vitality then. A team that played against DRX, didn't get a chance to play against T1, which I'm pissed about actually. I really wanted to watch the at least I don't think they did they? I think we got Vitality
at the start. Wasn't it the first game or something?
Talking about Vitality versus T1.
Yeah, no. Wait, they played twice.
It happened right at the end.
Oh yeah, they didn't play EDG. Sorry, they didn't play EDG. That's who I was thinking about, because I was watching.
Because the Derke Kong had
I was really looking forward to that match. It didn't happen, but yeah, they did have the rematch and ended up losing against T1. I'll give you my take on Vitality to start, and you can pivot off that if you like. I think that the style of Vitality, where they are much more loose than some of the other top teams, they're much more trying to adapt within the moment as to what they should be doing, and their reliance on individual gunfighting and how good they are at that, rather than the G2 style of always double up, always triple up, always have players ready to trade. I think the micro ended up being the problem. I know a lot of people were looking at their macro and being like, hey, these guys are just calling like a mid-round slowdown every single fucking round on their attack side. But I think the macro could have still got them the wins. I think the problem came that they were unable to find the teamwork and the discipline and the synergy when their normal style of we are just going to beat people in duels ended up crumbling.
I think that's fair. I think their split was so like extreme in how slow it was in that last game against T1. Like, and it was like, and I think people often, get to a point where anytime a round is like 20 seconds left and then the spike hasn't been planted, like everyone just starts, going, what the fuck are they doing? Melons. Everyone's just, just ready to do that. And that happens so consistent. Like, that's the thing that sticks with me from Vitality in this tournament is, that last, that game on split versus T1. But I think you're like, that's the thing though. That's like you say, that's their style. They've done that throughout EMEA. They've done that, to get to the playoffs, where they have been, slow and they walk around the map and they try and find kills. And with their team, it makes sense because they've got a bunch of aimers that will often win you duels. I do think it is a little disappointing though. I still am pretty disappointed, I would say, with Vitality, because it really did feel, I mean, as I guess T1 winning it kind of showed, like this tournament was open, and I know that they're probably thinking about, like their goal is to win champs in Paris and all that, and it makes sense. But I do think that like this was an early chance for them to really lay down a marker, right? And particularly when, they're going through and the game against G2, I was pretty disappointed as well. Felt like, G2 were pretty good that day, I will say. But, again, it felt like a game that maybe fully on form. We saw Derke going crazy kind of at the start of the tournament, maybe cooled down a bit, but maybe could have used a little bit more help. I don't know. I've ended up with just like, I feel like Vitality, I did want a bit more. I wanted a bit more.
I'm kind of I'm kind of glad. So I started after groups. I started believing in them heavy, and I was like, hold up, maybe they're just gonna fucking win everything this year. Because I was looking at people that were maybe a little bit quiet in the team, actually like really stepping up. I think Les had a crazy performance in comparison to how he was playing before. Derke, obviously, big step up from him. I do feel like a lot of the times their strats, maybe they leave Derke on an island. He needs some help on attack, but when it comes to defense, he like really just takes over. I'm kind of glad that they lost just purely because I thought like it's good that they can actually like they're human almost and they're beatable, because I was looking at them in groups thinking they might just own this tourney, like they might just completely wreck this year for everyone. So I think it's like, and when you watch them you can tell that they still need the teamwork and all of like the extra little bits of play. Like Derke needs someone to help like go in with him to support him.
The Haven Garage, you want more than just Derke running in on it, that fucking
You want? Let's stick with the positives, and then let's go to the number 3 coach era for the tournament. But yeah, I felt overall like Vitality, I'm still pretty high up on them, because I thought at one point they had to stumble because it's so early, like for a new team. Especially to look this good, it's really good. But I think if you just look at all of the positives for Vitality, as long as they can handle a loss and bounce back, which we haven't seen yet, because honestly they kind of got wrecked. I would say from like the first loss maybe hit them hard, because some of the choices they made on the second game was a little bit questionable. But I do think that all of the good signs are just stacked up for Vitality. I think there's so many of them. I have really good hopes for them for like the rest of this year. But I feel like they had to stumble at one point, and I'm kind of glad they did, because if they'd sweep this tourney, then they would have just sweeped everything this year.
Mate, it would have been so fucking boring as well. To be honest with you, I was looking at the beginning of the like every match that I had Vitality in, I was thinking, they got great players, but I can't root for them. It just feels like rooting for the Amazon Corporation, in that they just they bought a great team. They have the players to be able to win, and what else? I'm like, yeah, okay, they're supposed to win because they have the best players.
It's like being a Yankees fan. What you're saying?
It's soul sucking, man. If
I'm
they had
a
one,
bunch of Brits. I don't know why the fuck I'm talking about American baseball on this show.
When I was a kid, it would be like rooting for Manchester United, because they just had they had the big players, the big names, and you were just a glory supporter.
Giggs there, Rooney.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Whereas
this is my turn for it all to just
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
At least Vitality now, there's a very interesting story of them picking themselves up and being able to actually go for what they're looking for. And I'm struggling with expectations for this team, because what do you think a reasonable expectation for them at Bangkok would have been? Like, 4th best team in the world is really not that bad for a team that just made roster changes. But T1 won!
Yeah, but it's like you said, like this tournament was pretty open, like for a team like Vitality to and especially after the group stages, and they go through that without. I think that they lost one map, I think maybe, but like they looked pretty good. So it's like you could win this tournament. Like it was there for you.
And T1 showcased that it was there for a team that didn't have as much time and synergy with each other.
So yeah, 4th in the world. It's like that's pretty good. Like they don't need to beat themselves up too much about it.
3 less than you should have got. Take a look in the mirror, motherfuckers.
Yeah, motherfucker, what are we doing? But I think the expectation for them, like they should be, one of the favorites for every tournament.
Yeah,
right? So they should be looking to win them. They should be.
But I think, but I also think that if you look at where they are in a small amount of time, you got to be feeling good. Like if you're a supporter or even on the team, like I'd be looking at this thinking like, sure, we fucked up in some of the stuff, but overall, like just forming, would you have taken this like for our first tournament?
Yeah, of course.
For sure.
Anybody would, right? Give me the specifics then. You said you had the 3rd coach rant of the episode.
This fucking Haven. You pick Haven against pick Haven against T1, one of their better maps, by the way. Like literally, they got 2 of their best maps. This is their 2nd best map, and then you decided to pick a Jet, and it's like, do you not understand? Has Derke not come over from Fnatic and explained why the ISO is so good on this, and why the ISO is literally the piece that makes this comp work?
Apparently.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's like some anti for another team and they just decided like, yeah, fuck it, let's just use it for this team or something. But it makes no sense. Like fundamentally makes no sense.
No way. If that's the let me put this.
Then why are they picking?
If that is the idea that they had, and they thought that it was the anti for a different team would work against T1 on Haven,
But mate, I've got nothing else.
I can't say what I want to say because it's way too mean.
Say what you want to say.
No,
because this makes no sense. They're picking a map where you're using a comp that doesn't make sense as your map pick in the most important game of your tournament against a team that second best map. It pure madness. The comp fundamentally doesn't work. On attack, the only thing that's going to work is just C hit. You're only doing that.
I was losing my mind. I was losing my mind
because you have a Sova ult, and that's your set Sova ult strat. You need to C hit 8 out of 12 rounds, 12 out of 12 rounds.
When I saw the comp, I was like, well, they're gonna. I said at the start of my stream, they're gonna do a ton of C hits, and then
we saw it twice.
Yeah,
you can't A default. You can't A default. You can't take A long.
Whoever made this decision should be shot. That's what I was going to say. With a Nerf gun.
Yeah, in Fortnite.
In Fortnite, with a Nerf gun in Fortnite. I couldn't believe it when I went into the draft because everyone was talking about like, oh, we're finally getting. I think Josh, I think you were on the desk for this.
Yep, I was.
And I remember you're talking about like, we've never seen the head-to-head, the Euro ISO. It's gonna be so cool. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then I'm looking at my monitor and I see the draft. Or the agents like, as you guys are talking about all of that, and I'm just like, oh no, I can't tell them that they fucked it all. There's a jet in here.
Look at these rounds as well, man, where they're failing to deal with the ISO as well. Like Meteor's just having so much impact with the vulnerable to combo with the Hunter's Fury, with his with his shields all over the place, with the ults. The ults are spectacular at being able to provide
and they
support.
could have had that.
Yeah, they could
have had that.
But also
could have won. And then they picked against it.
But dude, it's not like Faded in the map. So we do coach interviews after map 1, right? And they go to Faded and they're like, hey, why have you picked this map, Haven? Why do you think you're better with the Yoru ISO than the other team? And he said, well, we have a secret plan for it. And so I'm on the desk and I'm like, they're going to be playing the Breach Tejo. They've got to be like, they're going to play an anti-comp instead of trying to mirror. And that's why they've gone into this, is because they know what they struggle with. Like when we play Yoru ISO, we really struggle playing against X composition, right? And my theory was that this is the Breach Tejo. And I was like, right, so they're going to pick that comp knowing that the Yoru and ISO really struggle against it. And then we see them come out with Jet. And I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is atrocious.
They pick it. It's like one of those plays where it's like when G2 they had a double ban, right? So T1 had to play Abyss. And they don't play Abyss, and they had to like go curveball and go, sure, we'll use a fucking Reyna. We'll try our best. This is what it felt like, but they picked the map.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It feels like Vitality's permaban.
Why are we picking this? It's shit. It fundamentally doesn't work in any aspect. You have one drone, so you can't take garage all along. Normally you force the ISO through. You can't hold anything over towards A because you got your double damage of your ISO to stop people from flooding in A. What you can do, throw fucking smoke at them. You can't hold A control when you're trying to set one person up because you don't have the double damage shock dart. You can't do anything with the team other than hit C, and you did it twice. This was the most frustrating game I've watched probably honestly, Cruise Haven, when they had no default, that was kind of annoying me. But that was up there. The two really annoying games. This was there. Both
is
Havens.
like this is the most like Gordon Ramsay I've ever heard you, Sliggy. You're just going like it's just
shit, dude.
I know,
so
but
shit. Like they fucking threw.
Okay,
it's so shit.
Do you think it's because Safe was not happy going ISO v ISO against Meteor because he had been having? Okay, I remember looking at the stats before this match, and Safe they'd played 5 maps prior to this, I think, and 2 of them he'd put down absolute stinkers. He had the lowest ACS in the tournament, but it wasn't because he was always playing terribly. It's because, like, about half the time, he was getting just, like, straight up no kills in an entire map. He would just have a whole map where he'd get like 1 kill and a half, 0 kills and a half kind of vibes. Do you think he just realized my form is dog right now? I'm not going ISO v ISO against this guy.
Then why is he going Jet?
But then you also don't have to pick the map. Like you can pick a map where he's on smoke. So
this is what I mean. You just pick a different map because I've had
similar. Jet and then he ended up being their top fragger.
I've had similar.
Yeah, he was their top fragger, and that's so fucked up as well because it makes it feel like the Jet was useful in any way, and it wasn't.
I mean, I just don't get it because I've had tournaments where like Scream will be like, I want to play this, but it's hard for me to tell Screamer because he drops 30 every kill. So I'm like, you can literally play this, we'll work around it. But with this one, Safe's not fragging that heavy, so I can't understand it. He's not the person that needs to frag heavy. He just needs to go average. You don't need to do it. Don't need to play a Jet. Doesn't fundamentally work. You were lucky to get 4 rounds.
I think more people just need to be
It's
willing to
true.
be assist merchants. Like, I mean, not that that's self. Okay, I don't walk this statement back. Because Sylvan was not an assist merchant, but Jesus Christ, I mean, because he was fragging and just putting up assists like crazy. But more players maybe should just be like, I'll just be the enabler here for the rest of the team. You know?
Yeah. Do you think it boomed them for map 3 as well? Because their attack side was so bad on Haven, and then they go into split, and they just looked out of it. Like T1 were running over them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to ask him, and if I get the information from him, maybe he said it somewhere else that I didn't see. But I remember ahead of the first series, Stax claimed to know how to tilt safe out of a game. I think he finally hit that stride. I think he did it in the second time. It took him a second crack at the team, and he managed to just tilt him off the fucking planet. So I'm gonna ask Stax, what did you do to tilt him? And I'll report back in the future.
Yeah. Koi desperately messaging Achilles. So how do we beat Vitality?
But other than this,
5,000 euros into my bank account.
Other than this, I'm pretty happy for Vitality. That was the only thing that they like messed up, and it's just a one bad agent select, and whoever made the decision can hopefully look at this and
they're dead according to Achilles. Don't
no. Achilles is just calling.
Okay,
calling for them to die.
Let me. Okay, whoa. Let me just say before I get the owner of Vitality, I don't know who you are, but hi.
I'm coming for you.
Don't come to my house. We don't need to record a Bren Alice style video of me apologizing in French, which I will fuck up completely.
Je suis désolé. Je suis très désolé.
The only thing I know is just je ne sais pas. That's all I can say, which is I don't know. So like,
why did you say this, Achilles? Oh, je ne sais pas.
Je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. But yeah, let's just. It was just a joke. I have faith in you guys for the future. Let's not make this a weird, awkward thing. I think the players are great. Good. There we go.
It's a good start. It's a really good start to the year. Just keep normal picks. You don't need to do these crazy curveballs.
I got 2 more questions for you about Vitality though before we move on. One is you're talking about don't go for crazy picks, but they also did have less of a meta read than most of the other teams, I would say. They played more standard last year comps than most of the other teams at the event. Certainly less than EDG, less than G2, less than even T1, even though T1 went in a different direction, they were playing different stuff compared to other teams. So certainly of the top 4, and even if we're going to include like DRX in there and Liquid, I suppose, even 2, they had one of the more standard, basic, kind of older reads on the meta. And Safe, I think it was, said, like, that's not a problem. Basically, you can win with any comp. You just have to come up with good game plans. Do you think that's accurate?
Can't win with the Haven comp, but I do think that
the other stuff that they were playing.
Yeah, the other stuff. I don't think they need to do anything crazy. You have some of the best individuals, and especially when Kix is playing to the same level, if not better, than some of the other players in this team. I think you have one of the best teams for individuals, and I don't think you need to do anything crazy. And especially when you're cooking, looks really burnt when you're doing it. I think just stick with the normal the normal good stuff that you know it works and that everyone's comfy with, because when it comes down to the head-to-heads and doing the fundamentals and just honestly just the macro stuff, it looks like you do it really, really well, and the individuals will just win you the games. So I kind of agree. I don't think they have to do anything different, but they need to remember that as well. Like, it's all good saying that in an interview, but as soon as you're doing this curveball, you've nullified everything you've said. So pick something normal that you've been doing and actually have belief in what you're saying. And again, I think they'll do something great this year, to be honest. But it needs
the game theory of it is, if you're the favorite, which Vitality will be in most of their games, you want to play it safer, right? Because if the game goes in a normal pattern, you'll win because you're the favorite, and so they should want to keep everything as standard and normal as possible because they're gonna be favored in almost every game that they play.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
My other question to finish the conversation on Vitality is that people are already looking. There was a lot of people looking at the choke merchants at this event. People looking at the G2 guys because they've only been able to win that one trophy after being in multiple finals. People looking at, I suppose people like the DRX team, like, is it DRX or is it Stax and Buzz? Those kind of narratives. Also, a lot of people looking at Safe because Safe has turned up to international events after smurfing regionally and not been able to put up good performances most of the time with the teams, even if he individually does okay, does badly. Like, it's not always a one-to-one correlation, but he's never actually been able to translate good regional performances into good global performances. He's also the only player on Vitality that ends up being massively, like, underperforming, basically, at this event. Everybody else was doing fine, if you look at the stats. And Safe had, again, mostly because he had a couple of real stinkers, it drags his average heavy down. But again, because of the 4th place, I think people are going to say that this was a bit of an underperformance from the team too. Where do you come down on this in terms of that kind of narrative that's floating around Vitality and Safe in particular?
I mean, for me, I think you could have all the best ideas in the world, but if you're not putting up figures, in not just for an IGL, but like if you're just not able to really keep up with the rest of the team and frag, I think that right now we're in a meta where you need 5 fraggers on a team, like, or you need somebody who does like a half-assed job and then 1 or 2 people who are starting to like pull a little bit of additional weight. But I think like a lot of the games that we were seeing in the grand final between T1 and G2, we were seeing like, yes, some individual like heroic performances, especially from like Jogamo, etc. But for the most part, as far as like kills were concerned, we were seeing a lot of the team be pretty much on par with each other. And I feel like having that kind of parity across 5 roles is really fucking important. I think that everybody needs to be able to have that impact individually. So
I just think choking narratives in general are pretty stupid. Like, are G2 chokers? Well, they fucking won Ascension. What happened there? Like, did they just, I don't know, take their anti-choking medicine that day? Like, you know, like, I think we just base these things off like such a small sample size. It's like, yeah, a good team lost to a good team. Like, wow, what a fucking narrative that is, you know? Like, but the thing is, it's just like, if they choked at any point, it was probably on Bind versus G2, right? Where they had 4 chances to close out the game. That was like the one, like, because against T1, you know, they won in overtime on the first map and then got fucking clowned on the other 2. It wasn't like the whole team wide, you know, just didn't play as well as T1 did at that point. So, I don't know. I fucking hate choking narratives. I think they're fucking dumb.
I still, yeah, I agree, but I still don't know why it's happening. I guess is my only thing. Like, I can't actually give you like a good explanation of like why the online and the LAN is so different. Like, it could be an emotional thing, similar to what I was saying about Narrate. Maybe he's like too emotional. Or maybe it's like there's a lot going on, so he's like trying to think more about like IGLing for this one. So it could be that stuff. But honestly, I don't think we're actually gonna know like the main reason why he's underperforming it. Like
I think that this one though, you can just put down, like, IGLs sometimes have shit games.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, I think that sometimes that just happens. You know, they get too much into the IGL chamber and they sometimes have shit games, even the best ones.
It's more the fact that it was a narrative before this event,
yeah,
and then it came true. That's why.
Yeah, but,
yeah.
No.
But I can't really like point a finger on it, to be honest. Really.
And they still finished 4th. It's not like, you know, if they went out 2 games.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I still.
If they went out 2 games, I think you could have a much more serious conversation about.
And he can, no joke, he can put up these numbers and they can win an event still. Yeah. I don't think they couldn't win an event with him putting up these numbers just because of how good everyone is, especially if Kix plays like this.
If they did, though, if they did win an event with Safe still putting up numbers like this, but he was putting up way better numbers regionally, that would still, like, the narrative would still be there. It would just be like, holy shit, he's got such a good team, he can still win with it.
But he does. So
he does have a crazy team.
But yeah, it would be. I honestly have no idea why it's like this. It could be unlucky. It could just be nerves. It could be more emotional.
I'm willing to reserve any like super harsh judgments until the next cycle. You know, if they make Toronto, then you know we judge them off that. If they don't make Toronto, then you can judge it off their lack of presence there. You know, but I think that it's still early days. Like, there's a ton of talent, but I mean, I remember you as well, Josh, talking about it. You know, as far as like less and like just continuing to get as comfortable with his English as humanly possible, and how that's still like an ongoing process. So I think that there still are going to be multiple hurdles that are, you know, being jumped and whatnot as you go on, but in theory things should look better as time goes on. So as long as that continues to be the case, then they should be just fine.
I agree. And honestly, I do want to shout out Les again. I think he had a crazy event. Like, I know everyone talked about Derke because obviously he put up insane numbers, but man, Les's impact and clutches were through the roof.
Whenever
They
he was
got
on
the
that
value
high,
out of the 2 players that they added to the team, didn't they?
Yes,
they got their
for
money's
sure.
worth.
They really did, yeah. It's proven.
Let's talk EDG. Let's move on to talking about the defending champions who came out insanely hot in the tournament. They looked amazing in the group stage and then got replaced by a different team in
They went
playoffs.
back to the team that was in the start of China when they
It
were
was
fucking...
It was
horrible.
really strange. It was a very, very large difference that we saw from
But
this
what's
squad.
even stranger about it though is they won the first playoff game. It wasn't like they had that two-day break and then were like cold and were then shit. They won a game.
They won a
and then
game,
were
but
shit.
did they look great in the game against T1?
Well, does anyone look great against T1? This is T1 superpower.
Well, sure, but they were also winning. They were losing. They lost 8 out of 13 anti-eco rounds. That is
was a
bonkers.
stupid game. That game was,
is
wasn't it?
insane.
8 out of 13 they lost. I mean, you're normally winning, what? You're winning about 90% on average, like people across the entire ecosystem. So what would that be? That'd be like losing 2. You would lose 2 out of 13 max. And they lost 8.
No, they had this
T1
problem
played their
last
part
year.
too.
Dude, T1 are amazing when they have bad weapons. They
Yeah,
like
they're
their
good at
pistol
it.
rounds, their eco rounds. They come up with such great plans. It was one of the things that I think you can point to and definitively say they were the best in the tournament by a long shot at getting value in those situations.
But they too love to lose an anti-eco.
They
It's
do a
not
bit,
past
don't
them.
they?
That game was crazy, the amount of ecos.
But it was mostly EDG.
I got my first credit card when I was 18 years old. And in the span of those 14 years, I have never said MasterCard more
I was literally
than I
joking.
did during that fucking series.
Yeah.
An unbelievable amount of thrifties.
Yeah.
I was losing my shit. I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, the sponsors will never be happier than they are on this day.
They're eating. They are.
I don't know
eating
if you've
so good.
seen. There's Mastercard used to sponsor the Champions League, and on some of the sponsored segments that they would have or whatever, a little advert before the game starts. You'd see like a player in like a red and yellow, Mastercard like shirt scoring a goal and celebrating. I was like, these players are literally about to like take off their jerseys, and we're actually in a Mastercard advert. Like that's how bad it was.
It was bonkers, but I feel like the EDG we saw against G2 never came back out to play.
No.
I was so sad. They just disappeared.
Yeah,
Chichu was the clear MVP. Well, no, he wasn't actually,
No, he
because I
was,
think
he was.
Derke was frying at the start.
I
of
would
the
give
game
it
at the
to
same
Chichu.
time as
he
Chichu.
was, but Chichu was another level.
Chichu was
Clutch
okay.
wise,
I would have given it to Chichu.
All right, fair enough then. So we could say Chichu was the MVP of the event up until playoffs. Because I don't think, did he go nuts in this game as well? The opening game of playoffs? I don't think he did.
I don't think he went nuts, but I want to say he was their best performer still, unless it was maybe Smoggy. I can't remember because Smoggy.
No, it was still Chichu. Chichu went plus 29, 8-1 first kill to first death in this game.
That's what I mean.
Well,
Yeah,
he was the
he was
reason,
still
he was the
amazing.
reason
Yeah, he
why
dropped
they had such
32
the dominant first half.
He dropped 32 on Pearl.
Yeah, I mean that's crazy. And then, dude, they just didn't do anything after this.
Oh my god! I mean, some of the rounds were so bad. If you show the round 3, is it round 3 from Bind, the lower final cut
T1
against
the
T1,
game against T1.
the game they went out on. I think it's round 3, and oh my god, I've never seen a round like that. That's the round where I think it's Itsu is stuck in garden, and he ends up
Oh, and
winning
they
the
just
1v3.
don't clear him.
And he's just
they
there
just
the whole
leave
round.
him there the whole round. It was
I don't
disgusting.
remember seeing a round ever like that before, where a guy sits there the whole time.
What's
He's the only guy there.
How is Isu's aura so insane? It's Bind round 3.
Yeah.
It was fucking vomitous.
And then they get out of it, but then lose a 1v3 as well. Oh, so funny.
It was so bad. As soon as I saw that, I wrote down in my notes and I was just like, "Oh my god, EDG look appalling." Like, because this should just never be happening.
Was this after the 5K pistol? The ace pistol?
just
Were
the
they
smoke,
all?
yeah.
Yeah. Dude, but their game plan on Bind killed me. Right, someone talk about this because I can't remember this round.
Oh, right. So they get into a 5v4, and I'm pretty sure eventually, I think it's just Itsu who's here. Yeah, you can see them rotating across now. So he's on his own, and he's just gonna sit in garden the entire time. And I don't remember a round like this where they like know he's here. Chichu knows he's there, but. And they just leave him. They just leave him.
He's the last to go. He's the last person.
He's the last to die, and he wins a 1v3. And Kang giga trolls
by
the
swinging
1v3.
on sight.
Oh my god!
Yeah, okay,
but like they should never have got to that point. Like,
but
they should be going and clearing this area out. Like, first of all, what on earth are you doing there? You heard the Prowler come from this spot earlier on. Why are you not even doing a check at all? It's because Kang's gone for the double blast back engage and not seen anybody Octagon.
Yeah,
but you still have to
think that he's like elbow or something.
Yeah, but you still have to go
never
for
a plan to clear it. Literally everyone just freezes.
Look at him! What are they doing? Hello! Hello! Chichu's too weak, so he doesn't want to swing alone, and he's like fucking begging, and they're like, no, T1 are going to flood defend. I swear to God, guys, T1 are going to flood defend. If we go back and help, they're going to be out, and then fucking Meteor just walks out elbow because nobody's watching elbow at all, so they're not clearing Octagon, not watching elbow. Kang tries to bail them out.
They save the round. Okay, we got out of the bad spot.
Thankfully.
And then this happens.
Oh my God.
It was crazy. The whole
this is appalling.
EDG's game plan on bind was really bad going into this because they're playing against
this is their map pick, by the way, as well.
Yeah, they just have a bad game plan in general because they're playing against a solo Brim, right? But all they're doing is then heading over towards B, and they gave. First of all, they're doing it in the first 30 seconds. There's no default to make sure that the Brim has to use any of the smokes for the light sight, the actual sight of line of sight. Sorry, over towards B. They're literally just taking a little bit of map control, smoke down, and the Brim said, "It's going okay. I'll do my 2 smokes here. You have no smokes for the left of this. Like you're literally hitting the sight. Why are we not slow playing against the solo Brim? Take hookah or take long control so there's the line of sight. So they have to use the smokes. Yeah. You meant to play against the solo Brim. You meant to." Slow take B and make the Brim use the smokes.
Of all the teams, you would think like Kang op.
Yeah, dude, they're buying op. That's what I was saying. Dude, someone called me racist. I literally said,
sorry?
Someone in my chat called me racist because I said, you're a Chinese team, buy an attack op because all the Chinese teams buy attack ops. Somehow that's
that's crazy xenophobic of you, actually.
Okay.
But dude, they should have just done that. And it was just like, I don't know why they're fast hitting against a Brim Vice comp.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like the first 6 rounds were dog shit. It was awful. Like I was just watching it thinking like, my God, they're gonna get wrecked here.
And then they got clapped on split as well.
This is what I mean though about T1. They're in the minds of their opponent. Jedi mind tricked them.
No, but T1
you will have a shit.
But I think the reason that people play shit against T1 though is that T1 are down to make the play. Like they play like
I'm not.
They play like scrimmers at all times. No, but I mean, I think it causes other teams to be shook because they're like, Buzz is just gonna like run through here, or like Meteor's just gonna swing through this at any time.
Meteor will just swing through it.
So we have to be careful. We have to be cautious, and it causes people to make mistakes against them because like T1 are just never. They're never scared to make a play that most people would only do in scrims, and I think that is what won them this tournament.
Maybe that's because maybe. I don't know. I've been told from sources they've never won a scrim this year.
They've never won a scrim this year.
That's gotta be a lie. There's gotta be. They at least beat Team Liquid Academy. There's one.
You guys wanted that to be on the DL. I apologize, but I've been told. I don't remember where I heard that, but I'm pretty sure I remember hearing that they just haven't won scrims.
It must be winning.
Imagine guys were 0-6 with Shanghai Dragons and scrims.
That's so funny.
I don't know. Like,
I mean, they could definitely still have a heavy losing record in scrims and be winning in matches, by the way. That is what, like, Optic used to do famously in the past. They would say that we used to get kind of like, I don't know what the win rate they would have, like 30% win rate or something. I'm just pulling numbers out my ass right now, but just going off what, like, Finesse and Chet and stuff have said in the past. But they would end up playing a lot better when it came to matches.
The problem was they looked so good at the beginning of this tournament, and I think they did a good thing.
EDG,
yes, yeah. EDG. Like they changed Again, I don't want to go into it too much because I've been flamed a little bit for saying that they had extra time, because they did have extra time. It's just the fact that they had the Chinese New Year, which I imagine both, like they probably took like 10 days, which still gave them like maybe like 6 to 8 extra days in my opinion. And honestly, if you look at like DRX's strat book compared to EDG strat book, I do think that they did use those days. Like you could tell there was a bit of time. But I think when they didn't have their new comps, it looked a little bit lackluster. Like they only won their first games because of new comp surprise factor and the fact that Chi-Chu was playing so good.
Maybe they're like Benjamin buttoning as a team because they hit the peak and they won champions, and then their first couple series they still looked really good, but now they're like de-aging and devolving. You know what I mean?
They're gonna get worse and worse.
They just seem like they just seem relatively inconsistent, because even the anti-eco stuff was there during champs and all of 2024.
Yes, it was.
Like they were getting ecoed a lot, and I think it was just a mix of just like in the big games, bad game plan, and then some of the comps maybe their players didn't feel like super comfortable. Got a little bit quiet for Kankang, but I also feel like they didn't prioritize an op on him that much, like at all. And I think a lot of times when you have Kankang, especially if I'm playing against that bind comp, like TMV said it, I'm getting that op out on attack first round I can. Like that third round that we saw as a disaster, I'm making sure someone saves 400 and I can give them an op straight away, and we're picking over towards B, so they have to use the Brim Smoke instantly. Like I think the whole planning could have been better, and I'm not that bothered about EDG. Like I think they're going to do great. I think they're going to do great for the rest of this year. I just think it was like bad game plans on the day, like really against some of the stuff they were playing against. That's it.
I think they also had a much worse day the second time against T1 than the rest of the tournament too. Because what they were doing at the beginning of the tournament was they were playing against teams that were playing very fast against them, and they fucking love that shit. They like when G2 were just running their fracture where they exec into you over and over and over again. EDG were like, oh, thank you. They just ate that up with their Neon comp, just sliding in, flood defending. They know all of the timings. They know how to get around them. But then G2 the second time really slowed things down and made it more difficult for EDG, and I think applied a ton more pressure to the game plans.
For sure. I feel bad for Chi-Chu because
what a tournament.
He's so good.
Because honestly, what a tournament. And honestly, I don't know if this is controversial, but he kind of got his MVP of champ stolen as well.
Yeah.
So it's like he's had 2 back-to-back tournaments where in my mind he's been the best player of the whole tourney.
I mean, yeah, tough to say he's the best player of this tournament, though, when you don't get to see him play as many matches as the other
he was.
teams.
He was
If they've been able to play
For the
them.
ones he was there.
Yeah.
He was.
Let's talk T1 then. T1 defeated every region's #1 seed. They did lose twice.
Can I just say this is a bit strange by Kurt, and maybe a little America's bias. We're going back to front, and
Well, I think yeah, you mean we still have to talk about G2 later, but I think you have to talk about T1 here, because if we talk about G2, we're going to be talking about.
Why are we doing G2 last? I flipped it.
Yeah, you flipped it. No, but I think it actually does make more sense. I'd rather talk about T1 here because T1 beat EDG multiple times. T1 beat EDG once, but played against them multiple times. And also T1 winning in the finals, I think is, if we talk about G2, we're just going to end up talking about T1 the whole time anyway. So we might as well talk T1 here. And then we can go.
I at least will. Maybe not you guys, but
T1 massively underrated by every team coming into the event. Destroyed, won the rematches, made the plays. I think, for me, defined by that ability to make the big play when needed without any fear. And I think a lot of that came from Buzz and from Meteor. And
Isu.
You don't think?
Yeah, but I mean, Isu when he plays the Duelist, yeah, but I don't think we were seeing the big play coming out from Isu when he's playing on the fade or the Cypher. I think he
had his fucking moments.
Yeah, but he's not setting the tone for the team. He's getting incredible impact. I'm not saying that Isu wasn't having incredible impact, but the tempo that they play at is set by Buzz and Meteor, in my opinion. I think they're the people driving this train forwards. So presumably, then you both would have voted Isu.
Silence.
Presumably, you both would have voted Isu then for like MVP.
Yeah, I think. I'll be honest. Meteor out of the whole of T1, Meteor would have been 4th on my list.
I was saying Itsu was. I thought Itsu would win it.
Yeah, I voted for Buzz.
I'll be honest. I have no idea how Meteor won it.
because he played a good grand finals, and that's all people look at.
But honestly, if you just look in the grand final, are we not thinking that Stacks had a more impactful grand final?
So
Maybe,
let me
but I think
defend
Meteor
my
was also
vote.
amazing in the grand final.
So I voted for Meteor, and I can defend my vote because I forgot that this was supposed to be for the entire tournament and not just for the grand final.
Okay.
And for me, without Meteor's performance, the split doesn't go their way. They never get the map 5. They never get a chance at Pearl. Series is over. G2 win 3-1. That was kind of like how I felt. But like I also thought, I mean, we had like an unofficial MVP where we chatted about on the analyst desk at Shanghai. I also like at that point also didn't give it to Meteor there. So like I'm not just Meteor pilled. But for me in this one, like if he doesn't go off in those key moments on split in that overtime, then we just never get to see it even go to that fifth map.
I want to see a La La Land like type beat where Achilles has to rip the bracelet from Meteor's hand now that he understands what he's voting for and give it to Itsu instead.
Well, why would I do that when I have him right here on my shirt? So
That's incredible. Where the hell have you found that from?
Oh, I had a couple of these made up right after I got back.
Anti-Paper Rex shirt as well.
Yeah. No. I got this from. we had a like a year-end party out here in Pacific, and they took a bunch of the thumbnails that are whoever our fucking legendary thumbnail maker is for the Pacific highlight videos,
good ones.
and they made them into t-shirts, and I happen to get the Meteor one.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I've been waiting for a moment to show this thing off on this goddamn stream, and we're
that's why you voted for him MVP. I see, just for the setup.
I think it's one of those events though where there really isn't a clear-cut MVP. Like I think a lot of the events there really is one. I would say there wasn't one at this.
I agree. If we're not giving it to Chichu, then I was having this conversation on my stream. I was like, in my head, it's between Buzz, Izu, or if you're just thinking purely final stacks. That they were like my 3.
I would have given it to Buzz if I had the...
overall.
Yeah.
Yes, I voted Buzz because I thought he was the tournament MVP overall. The amount of times that Buzz does more in a situation than he should do is just absurd. Oh, by the way, sorry, while we're on the MVP narrative, fuck the idea that he won back-to-back MVPs. Can we get that the fuck out of my face?
Yeah, the fucking...
And Meteor's the only person to have won back-to-back Masters events. Eat my dick and balls as well. That's a false fake narrative too. We're really saying Lock-In wasn't a Masters event, and we're saying that somehow fucking this and Shanghai are back-to-back, despite the fact that Champs is in the middle. These are bullshit narratives. We have good enough narratives already. Get the fake ones out of here. It's nonsense.
I do agree, but we only have.
I don't rate
3
Lock-In.
lands a year, dude.
You don't rate Lock-In as good as a Masters event?
If anything,
Fnatic's a 1-trophy team.
Oh, you hater! You insane hater!
Yeah, that's why Derke not even close to being the GOAT. He's like one accomplishment.
0 out of 10 rage bait. 0 out of 10, man. 0 out of 10. If T1 come out and win in Toronto, I don't want to hear anybody saying they're the first team to go back-to-back at Masters. I don't want to hear a single person saying it. It's ridiculous.
Purely
okay, fine. I'll just say that Meteor's the first one to go 3 in a row.
Oh, the Champs was in the middle, man! It kills me.
The whole narrative is crazy. Because first of all, Lock-In, dude, 32 teams, were comparing it to an 8-team event. That's crazy. It's 4 times more the teams, by the way. So definitely, probably harder. You would argue.
It's like single elimination. So the maths out. Like it's like basically the same thing.
Sure. And then we only have 3 lands a year, and we're just separating a Masters and a Champs. Like we have 3 lands. We've got to just fucking accept that that's all we have.
Global's a global, man.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have much in this game, and we can't be separating them. We gotta just accept that like they're all big.
Otherwise, you look at like Stacks and Buzz's celebration and be like, "What the fuck are they doing? It's not Champs. Like, why do you fucking even care?"
Why are you even happy, T1? Why do you even care?
As Sliggy knows from me being in his chat from time to time, I'm just here to incite. That's all I'm here to do.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. No. I mean,
I feel like I've done a good job.
People love finding a narrative. I just thought this one was fraudulent, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it was. But I think sorry, I was going to get us back on track.
Yeah.
I was going to say overall, like T1, I think with the time they had as well, like refining their bind a little bit. It was like a deeper actually like strat book that I've seen on their bind because it's getting a little bit stale. They had a lot of new things with their ice wall, like even the one where like you do it so deep that you have to like peek it and you have like an op holding it. They had just a lot of small little micro plays on the 4 maps that they didn't feel were that strong, and that kind of like got them wins. And I thought that was cool from them. They kind of like that. I think they identified at the beginning. First of all, they picked Bind like on their first game, and it's like, mate, you guys still aren't good at this map. Like it felt like they hadn't recognized their win conditions, and then they, after getting knocked down, and they switched Sylvan in, like they then started like, first of all, changing out Sylvan kind of turned out to be incredible because it lit a fire up under his ass and he looked insane.
Oh, what do you think of a 6-man roster winning a tournament?
This doesn't count. Like a
what do you mean it doesn't count?
It doesn't count. But then, okay.
It does count.
No. He's right. It doesn't count. Just like Lock-in doesn't count as a global tournament for Fnatic. Like, it's the same thing.
Okay, but then Fnatic also won that with a 6-person roster. And then the one after. And then the one after, because everyone had to buy
what are you talking
rules. They had to have a 6th man sign.
They literally played 6 people in this tournament. That's
and they lost the tournament with the 6th person. Like,
but they played the game with 6. Okay, here's why it counts. Let me pitch you this. This is why it counts. Because while your concept of like, you know, Fnatic wins with 6 people because they literally had 6 people signed, the
6-person roster.
One of the reasons that Sylvan did perform better, I think, is because he had the threat of being benched. I think that is that is such a classic Korean esports thing, is that they sit your ass down on the bench for a while and they're like, okay, well, you can come back in once you prove that you're worthy of it, essentially. And I swear to God, I don't know why it works. It's something very specific, I think, to Korean esports and work culture, because that is not going to work in other regions, I think. But for Korean teams, it really does motivate the guy that's been sat down on the bench to come back and play their fucking best game when they return. That's effectively using 6 people.
But that's not how a 6-person roster works. 6-person roster is like you replacing someone for a map and then switching them around like per map wise.
Goalposts changing much. This is one way of using a 6-person roster.
But then you could say that about all the other rosters that had 6 people on it.
No, because they weren't benching people.
No, because sometimes they were. Sometimes people were playing. Like when did Fnatic use? Was it Kamek or who else did they have? Like people were subbing people
because they needed a sub.
Yeah, that's
well, that did work. That was a very effective use of a 6-person roster, because otherwise they would have had to forfeit the fucking game.
Mate,
Mom, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna be right back while you have this argument.
They didn't win a game when they used one of their players. That's not a successful 6-person roster. All you're saying is that
they won the tournament, Sliggy.
Sure, but so did everyone else when they had the 6 people on their roster. Like, did you get what I mean? We wouldn't have called them a 6-player roster. When FPX won that tournament and they had stand-in, did we say there was a 6-person roster? No, because he was a stand-in. That's essentially what it was. But it like lights a fire up under...
Okay,
to that point, Sliggy, Cider did get the fucking Copenhagen winners thing, I think. The title of the game.
But so did the 6 of... whatever team they were in.
Okay, so I'm with you.
So did when you were in Fnatic and you had the 6 people, so did the 6 people.
True,
I'm with you if they don't continue doing this in the future, though. But I feel like what they've showcased is they could
just do this again.
I don't think
so. Winning a tournament, there should be no way
they'll just play Sylvan because he played too good.
Yeah,
which means it's a 5-person roster and he's just a 6th that is there to stand in.
So you're saying Carpe should take no credit and really shouldn't even be considered a winner?
He did great when they needed him, and I think that he actually does a lot for the team, from what I can tell, in terms of like assistant coach-esque stuff.
You mean he did great in the Pacific finals,
the Pacific, right? He got them there because of, well...
You don't mean when they needed him at Bangkok?
No, yeah, because obviously... But I don't class this as a 6-person roster. I class this as just the same thing as wherever 6 stands in, you just stand in.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty reasonable then, if you consider this a stand-in, because I would also assume that they're not going to do this in the future. They're not going to, because in theory, maybe they could even do it with like Isu or something. If Isu got too much of an ego coming out of this event or something, they could maybe sub Carpe in for a while. But I think it's mad. Like, I can't even understand why it works in the first place, to be honest with you. It's so far away from my experience of working with people in like a more American or English work culture that I'm just thinking if I did this, or if I had seen teams that I've worked with do this, I can't imagine it would have gone well. and yet the Korean
you
teams
reckon?
do get a lot of success out of it.
It definitely has to be the right person. But I think when there's someone there that's ready to take your spot and people are willing to like take you off, like I think like that extra people get very comfortable in tier 1, especially when they made it to these high salary teams. They feel like that's the end goal. And I think as soon as you have someone close, literally on standby, maybe coming into the practices and like is there like helping the team that could potentially replace you, I feel like those extra hours where you could go chill, maybe you're gonna like do some extra work, you're gonna focus on some micro, you're gonna play an extra rank game. And I think like that extra pressure that is like the best bit of the sixth, like having a sixth man there just for that pressure.
So there must have been some kind of problem though within T1 in order for this to begin in the first place, where they're subbing the player out. It's very unlikely that it's just, Sylvan, we don't think you're good enough, we're going to bench you for a while to bring somebody else in. Like, this is a fairly drastic panic button that teams end up hitting. And winning solves every issue. It solves everything. If they go back to having rougher performances in Pacific or in the future at some point, maybe they're even on the verge of not making it to an event, do you see this team having similar kind of problems again? Because at the moment they're just winning, so everything's fine.
But they weren't coming into this. That's like
no.
But are you saying
based on what I know, no, I don't see the issues resurfacing.
Yeah.
You mean from a specific, like the issue has been solved point of view, though?
Can you confirm? Because everyone in my chat was saying that Sylvan was sick and it was a pure stand-in for that. Can you confirm it's not that?
He wasn't sick.
Okay, that's what
I mean, maybe for like a period of time, but from my understanding, there was extraneous issues. And then,
what would have happened?
I mean, like he was there, like he was on stage with them when they qualified for Bangkok. They interviewed him, and we did the episode, and Chobra translated for us. It wasn't translated at that show, but Chobra translated for us here on this show that Sylvan had said that he was basically intending to basically fight for his spot and get back on the starting roster. So there was other things happening clearly, and that was able to be solved. And based on what I saw, it has been solved.
But
I want to know though, if they won that first game, do you think would it have just been Carpe?
I think Carpe plays until they lose a game.
For
Probably,
sure.
yeah. I think I think they would have just stuck with Carpe until they had the loss.
Yeah, I think that was the
it just happened.
plan coming in.
They just happened to lose at the perfect time, and then Sylvan went fucking crazy in the next game.
Right, that's the crucial aspect too. Is that Sylvan's coming in cold off the bench and has to perform incredibly well to turn it around. It's kind of similar to what happened with Foxy9 when DRX were rotating the rosters around, where he would get benched every time as they lost and were in an elimination portion. But it puts crazy pressure on the person coming in because they're then in like a worse scenario. They're already in a like elimination game. You have to perform well. And if you have that one match where you come in a little bit cold, you just messed up your only chance. So it's a crazy harsh system to be running within a team. But
apparently they do it in League of Legends as well. T1.
Yep.
I love taking lessons from League of Legends and applying them to Valorant. Fucking great.
You and I talked about this topic. You and I talked about this topic at the after party. And I told you like a kind of anecdote and said that they were kind of doing the same thing in the LCK team where they had benched Gumayushi, who's a two-time world champion 80 carry. And then they subbed him out for a guy named Smash, and Smash came in and he played fucking incredibly. He did the same thing. He was the guy who was pulled up from their academy team, and they put him in as the ADC, and then he went absolutely nuts. And everyone was just started being like, oh man, like, do we want Gumayushi back in? Like, obviously the diehard fans were like, of course, yes, we must have the same 4-player core. But there was people, especially from the English audience, that said like, maybe the Smash guy should start, So
T1, we were talking about some of the players, but I feel like it bears mentioning just like how good everybody was. So I just want to give people their time in the spotlight. I want to talk about E2 for a second. Holy flex. Holy unbelievable flex player. I feel like a lot of the time flexibility in itself gets overvalued by the community at large. They tend to look like, oh, this guy played 4 different agents over 4 different maps. Like he must be a really excellent player. but Itsu is having such high-level performances across many different roles, and he's doing what they're talking about, where you play like 4 different agents over 4 different maps. This is absurd. Like, I feel like we haven't seen somebody flex around like this and have such great consistent impact for a long time. I can't really think of the last person.
And
Forsaken 23.
Yeah, it kind of is Forsaken.
Yeah?
It kind of holds its level, maybe Chronicle and Uncertain, like certain agents as well.
Forsaken and Chronicle 23 probably.
Yeah, I think it's just like those 3 at the moment, because the thing is as well, normally like there'll be one weak link where it's like this map, or maybe don't frag as heavy, but every single time it's fragging heavy, and his clutch rate is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen. Like every 1v2, pretty much, I was watching for like, I swear he won like 4 1v2s back to back. Like if you just kind of string the games together, I was like, how is this guy winning every single clutch? And his thought process is just like awesome to watch. Same with Sylvan. Like I like watching both of them just like in a rough situation and just seeing their thought process. Like everything's really smart. I was super impressed, especially just like aim wise as well. I know his flexing util was good, but his aim wise was kind of looking. We'd seen flashes of this before, I felt like, but this was when it felt like the most consistent, where I'm looking at him thinking like, man, this guy's winning so many duels right now.
I feel like
Good.
I was just going to very quickly, I think they're the 2 biggest reasons that T1 looked so good versus what we saw from them earlier in the year. The 2 players that I think stepped up the most were Isu and Sylvan.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, I feel like Izu's somebody who got the short end of the stick when it came down to the T1 narrative for this tournament, because obviously the attention goes towards Stacks and Buzz. And I know that like Jen really wanted to do an interview with Izu because she hadn't gotten to do one yet, and he'd been so damn good. But when they qualified into the grand final, they said, okay, let's do a 2-person interview, 2-player interview. And Stacks and Buzz just is, you know, that duo has existed for so long, so it makes the most sense. And I was thinking, I was like, Izu he's such a passionate player. And I remember when T1 got knocked out of kickoff last year, you know, he was in tears because he wanted to come in, he wanted to just kind of like smash everybody. He wanted to show what he was made of and have the team be this huge success. And even with kickoff, which is a pretty brutal format, it's a really quick turnaround tournament. Only the top 2 are going to get to go through to go to the international. He was super disappointed that he wasn't able to like basically carry the team to go to Madrid, and to see him like from then to then now have his moment where he is lifting a trophy. It's just. And he is farming, he is carrying, and he is clapping, he's clutching, he's doing everything. I think that's just like so fucking awesome and so cathartic to see for Izu as an individual, because he is one of the most passionate players that is on this roster. And I mean, and you're putting up against, you know, Meteor, who's won a fucking trophy. You're putting up against Stacks and Buzz, who've been chasing a trophy for 5 years, basically. And he is just as passionate. I'm so happy for him to have had this performance and to finally make it happen. And also, this made me lose my goddamn. The fact that he pulled off like the texture flick twice in a row in the same round, because texture did it like between 2 different series on a set, and then he just did it back to back in this position. I was just like, oh man, just get this guy a bigger paycheck and everything that he wants. Like,
are they gonna keep it up? Because T1, Izu's shown us this last year, I would say, is when we last saw Izu's 2nd highest peak. I would say this is his peak. This is the best I've ever seen Izu play. I would say last year was probably like at times, you know, just a bit underneath this, but it wasn't consistent for like a large period of time. But my God, he looks like amazing at Masters Bangkok. And he's showcased as well that he doesn't need to be just put on one thing repeatedly to get that consistency. He was doing it all over the place.
Yep.
Do you think they've solved something, or is this a bit of a heater that he's on at the moment? What do you think?
He's just got a better team.
Mean, I think it's maybe a bit of that, but I mean, he was always pretty damn good. You know, even in the end of last year, like there was obviously a ton of weird things happening with T1. They had the last minute addition of Stacks after he got dropped from TRX. Rossi gets benched. Carpe is playing again. Yada yada yada. He still looked good during those days. But now I think that there's just a lot more stability. I think there's a lot better and clearer of an identity for the team, and I think that the way that their roles work right now is also just a lot better overall. And they have a strong idea of how to flex people around, whether it's Meteor to ISO and then to playing the Vice, or it's Izu to the Cypher and then to the Yoru himself. Like, I think that they just have a stronger understanding of what to do with this 5-man core, and he's just thriving because of that. Like, I mean, if he continues to fry like this, like Izu, he could very well just be like the best player of the year.
And I think for this team, like, when you talk about like why did T1 win, one of the main things people are going to say is they played what they were comfortable with, not necessarily always like the most meta stuff, but stuff that worked for them. And I think Itsu is a gigantic reason why that is the case, because he is comfortable on so much. So you can afford to play whatever you want, because he is the one that can, oh yeah, I'll play Fade. Okay, I'm playing Cypher map too. He is.
You've ruined the phrase the glue guy though, because now the glue guy feels like it should be the guy that's the glue.
He's the duct tape,
Like the duct tape guy. It's not got the same ring to it though, Seth.
The duct tape dude.
Duct tape dude. That's not bad. That's not bad. Duct tape dude.
He's the DDT, but I don't know.
It is cool with teams be saying though. Like, loads of teams have tried to make double duelist work, and this is probably the most maps we've ever seen a team try and do it, at least for the past 2+ years, like 2-3 years. And they do it the best. They kind of took the Fnatic stuff, and then they literally did take all the Fnatic stuff from like last year in terms of the Haven, the ISO, Yoru, and then obviously on the split like the Yoru Raze, and they kind of did their own variation of it on multiple maps, and they make it work the best we've seen, because these were the maps that looked really good at the beginning as well. It just suits them.
And with this neon,
but you have
well.
that's Pearl split, Haven, Lotus. But you have to have a person like Izu to make this work, like a Forsaken that can play everything to a high level.
I love watching Buzz. Dude, I love watching Buzz.
The door round with Judge, that was crazy.
Just everything, man. I just enjoy watching him. I know we're about to watch him die there in this round, but like, he is a fearless duelist, and he's been around for so long. He is amazing when he's playing the Jet Op. We only got to see that, I think, once in this tournament. He still looks phenomenal when he's playing the Neon and the Yoru and like all the other shit that he's playing. He just never looks like the pressure gets to him. It's so much fun watching this guy, watching him win. It feels like such a long time coming.
Beginning of the tourney as well, he was playing really, really well. Like, he may be the only kind of game, it was like the final, he was maybe a little bit quiet in terms of like how well he was playing, but he still had like those rounds.
He had a bad map. Which one was it? Was it Bind or something? He had a terrible map? Oh, Split. Is that what it was? Yeah.
It was Split in the final. That was the only time that Buzz had a bad map.
No, his Abyss, he was...
I think Abyss,
he was going nuts on Abyss. On the attack side, he started off just dashing into sides.
He was
cleaning people up.
He was dashing in. I said he looked like he was playing Waylay, because he just looked like he always had double dashes, because he was just getting so deep quickly onto the sites.
How are G2 losing to somebody just dashing into sight like that, though?
It's funny, wasn't it?
First, no, it wasn't funny, actually. It was fucking tragic.
I thought it was very funny until they turned the map around.
Yeah, I mean, on the defense side, their composition just doesn't really have anything that they can do on defense. But on the attack side, I was like,
they would just spam. Yeah, they would. I liked how T1 approached the Abyss though. They just spammed sight hits. G2 took a long time to realize they weren't going middle. They would always have like 2 towards middle, and it's like, guys, you gotta leave middle.
Guys, you're in a ranked game. You're in a ranked game. You don't realize it yet, but you are.
Yeah, basically. But no, they did good, man. Considering they didn't play this map, they did awesome. And yeah,
I was honestly surprised, like the mental side of T1, because after they got kind of owned on map 1, I was like, oh, they could be in some trouble. They might just get owned here 3-0, something like that. Then they bounced back pretty, well on Haven. But then when they because that's the thing, had they just lost Abyss and got destroyed, and they could have just been like, oh guys, no, it's not
It's
a map.
yeah,
whatever.
garbage map.
But the
whatever.
fact that they had a chance to win, lost a 1v4 to Jorgamo with an ace,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like meant that they lost the map in regulation. I was like, well, they've got to be done now because, like, just mentally, they're gonna just be replaying that round in their head over and over. Then, you know, I mean, obviously we go into like OT in the last 2 maps as well. Like,
But not just OT where they come back from an 8-4 down situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like G2 had an opportunity to just win the series up 8-4 and T1 win pistol, then bonus, then the next rifle round, and just like they're back in the game before you can blink, and it feels like the pressure's actually on G2 at that point. Yeah, and then G2 even had 2 match points on. No, they had 2 match points on Split. Didn't no? Sorry, did they had 1 match point on Split and then 2 on Pearl?
They had down 2
Something
on
like that.
Pearl. It's 12-10 on Pearl.
Yeah,
T1
but I think
had
they
to-
also had 1 on Split because it was Valen stuck in like a 1v2 when he could have
Yes.
closed the game out, and he had that
Yes.
weird like awkward
Yeah.
one way that he was playing around.
Yeah, and he kills the first player, and then doesn't get the second.
Well, can I just
Yeah.
ask the question? I think this is the greatest game of Valorant of all time.
The
Like,
final
series?
Yeah, one match.
For a
I
final.
agree.
Just one match.
Not
just
not
think
even
it's the
because I was
best
on
match.
it, but I just agree. I think that it was.
The
probably
casting was a bit
the most
subpar, but
entertaining.
What is it competing with? It's competing with
Lock-in.
Lock-in.
Fnatic Lounge. Yeah.
Lock-in,
Um,
Champs Grand Final, Madrid.
That
They all
was
went
good.
5 as well.
Last year was good for games.
What was the Shanghai final like? I can't even remember.
Shanghai was the map 5 G2 versus sorry,
Heretics.
Heretics versus
Gen.G.
pretty
that
good.
one was good as well.
Yeah, no, we got.
It's a
blessed last
hard
year.
bar to clear, but the fact
No, but I think that this game is a hard bar to clear because all the
Yeah.
final 3 maps were
right
like,
having
rounds.
double overtime adds quite a bit to it.
Yeah,
double
yeah.
OT in the final 2 maps as well,
Yeah.
not just like close at the beginning and then. But yeah, this game was crazy the way it heated up.
And some of the moments, there was some crazy moments, like, you know, Stacks with the little feet tapping, you know, in the clutch
yeah.
where they just win by time, the Sylvan stick,
Yeah, that
as you
was-
said, the Jorgamo ace 1v4. There was
No,
so many.
Pearl was stacked with rounds
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
When Stacks
The
did
buzz,
that
yeah,
one, when he was
crazy
just
4K.
shooting Trent in like the kneecap, I didn't know that Valen actually couldn't get the defuse, and I just was like yelling, kind of just like, I hope that this is true. I couldn't hear anything because the audience was so loud. I
Yeah.
genuinely couldn't hear the clock or the timer, and I was just like, I'm just hoping that this is correct based on gut instinct.
Yeah. It was an incredible game. It might be the best game of Valorant that we've seen for pure entertainment value. It was incredible.
I saw a breaking news thing. Is this miss?
Yeah, the breaking news is I pressed the button by accident.
Okay.
Oh. Breaking news,
I was
Carpe, back in.
I was gonna let it fly, but I thought, nah.
Shall we?
Call it up.
Shall we swap over to talking G2 then for a bit? Both teams had 3 championship points. For T1, I believe all of those came on Pearl. Yeah, I mean, of course they would have to be. In the overtime of Pearl, though. So they had 3 opportunities to close the game out, and they finally converted on the 3rd attempt. G2 had already had 3 tournament points, 3 championship points. 1 on Split, like I was talking about, and then 2, but because they were 12-10 up, sorry, on Pearl, and missed out on it. This has got to be one of the closest. I can't think of another situation like that where both teams had exactly the same amount of chances of being able to win a tournament. I can't think of any game where that's been the case. Maybe somebody will be able to think of a finals in the chat, but this one was utterly nuts, and I think was G2's to lose, really.
Yeah,
Right?
especially-
They have
especially
double map veto.
double
They have
map veto,
the
yeah.
earlier championship points, and they can't convert on them. It was crazy.
And they started off really well because their ante on Lotus was really good.
Oh, they crushed.
Like really good. You could tell they had like 3-4 rounds where they knew they could punish like the defaults essentially on attack and defense. So that was
They ended
really
B
cool.
so many times as well, because I
Yeah.
think everybody has tried, when they lose the rubble fight, going C against T1, and I think they realized that there's just a gap in towards B that's just being held basically by a trip. They had so many rounds that were ending B.
They
Yeah,
had
it was
a lot of punishes on Lotus. I think at one point Leaf in the comms was like, like, oh, perfect read again, guys.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, every round just felt like, you know, they were in the walls. They knew,
But you're
they knew what T1 were doing.
expecting, I was expecting that to travel through onto Haven to some degree
well,
as well.
Yeah,
because
when
Haven, they also play.
It was like 4-1,
yeah,
I think,
4-1
early.
up. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this game's over. Like, G2 are just gonna stomp them. Like, you know, clearly they're the better team here. And that's why, like, it was so, like, I don't know, it's just something about T1. They are like an ultimate entertainers team, you know, because they just, when you felt like, oh, this is going T1's way, they do something stupid and lose a round, and then as soon as you think like, oh, it's over, G2 have got this, they pull out something miraculous, you know, and that's just who they are, and that's just kind of their style, right? Of like going, you know, we're gonna just enable our players to just kind of go, like you said, that kind of more scrim style. You know, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. That's T1.
Sometimes A looks weak.
Yeah.
They had it was like a timeout at 4-1, right? And timeout at 4-1, and they won like 4 or 5 rounds in a row. Like, that was impactful. And then just everyone started coming online, really.
I also think they play with such excellent patience on their attack side. One of the things that I was really noticing was when they pick up the ISO ultimate, a lot of the times people try
to T1, sorry.
Well, yeah, but it's relevant to G2 as well, because this, I think, was part of the ante. I think G2 were thinking, our composition is really solid against the Yoru ISO because it's tough to get into sights against us. You're running double duelist, but like, how are you actually getting in against the stuns, against the salvos? And what T1 did was they farmed up Meteor's ult and then got into a duel and then just posted up. Like, there was multiple attacking rounds where T1 were ending A in like a 5v4, let's say. There's like full-on 4 defenders on the site. But you grab one of them, you wait for Meteor to win the duel, and then you actually do the exec like 5v3 and just win out because you're expecting them to be holding all of the angles, and it's tough to get the defensive timings with the util. Like, they played with such excellent patience and awareness of how their composition wins. It really was a really impressive display, and I think they deserve to come out with the win here on Haven and kind of, punch back and showcase that G2 are not just the thinking man's team here. Like, T1 are capable of it as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was still impressed with G2, like, overall this tournament. I thought as well, like, when they, in the 2 days, them, like, refining their bind for the Vitality game was, like, really smart from them. I just thought, like, and you can see a lot of their setups in terms of when they have some demos, like, their little, like, whether it's just pathing.
After that, Sliggy, though, I was surprised that they didn't ban Haven and play bind.
And play bind, but I think because T1 showed a good bind against EDG, they were just like, let's play to our strengths, which I think T1 was so in for.
I think G2 probably ran out at the end of their playbook as well on bind.
Because that's what I mean, 2 day.
Yeah, they just didn't have enough time to be able to run it into the finals and adapt enough.
I think it still would have been okay just because T1 was doing a lower bracket run and had to play every fucking day. I feel like they probably would have been able to get away with it, but I don't know. That's
possibly.
Hindsight, you never
they
know
still had
how
chances
this all
to win,
develops.
though. They had chances to win on Haven. It's not like it was a bad, a bad move necessarily. But
it didn't get blown out of the water by like a huge degree or anything. So
I feel so rough though for Leaf. Had no idea what he was going through. He posted a tweet afterwards about, to be honest, I can't remember the exact wording of the tweet, but I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong, that his mum had just recently
she passed away at the start of February.
Cancer. Right. So grief for that kind of stuff is very difficult to, you don't get over it in, what was this, like a month before the game? You're not feeling much better at this point in time. And he was talking about how it motivated him, but he also had a pretty rough individual performance towards the tail end of the series. His first half on Pearl individually was not what he was showcasing on the Americas stage, for example. Not something that I was aware that he was mentally dealing with, but that is tough to lose in this kind of fashion as well when it feels like you should be set up for a win. It's it's got to feel rough. My heart does go out to him for that. I
have the utmost respect for not just Leaf, but like the team overall. But this like really reaffirms it for me, I think, because I don't know that I've met a better full 5 stack, at least from like out of the Americas teams that I've interacted with, than G2. just like top to bottom. I feel like
what do you mean by better? You mean like good people?
Like just good people and people
Yeah.
who are just passionate about the game and doing as good as you know, putting up as strong performance as they possibly can. Every time that I've ever interacted with them, they're just like the most awesome guys, down to earth. The addition of Jogamo just really expounds on that, just because he's just the chillest dude in the world. But I have a lot more respect for them than I already did, and I already had an immense amount after, you know, interacting with them in Shanghai and whatnot. And for Leaf to go out and do that, I think that's really awesome of him. Like, I'm somebody who, you know, like when I was 15, I lost my mom. Not trying to drag down the mood of the show or anything like that. Just saying, been in similar shoes. And to stick to doing what you love and what you think they would be proud of you for, that's exactly what he needs to be doing. And I think that the fact that he was able to go out on stage and play as strongly as he did is a testament to his passion for this game and his love for his mother. So, Leaf, if you watch this VOD, I fucking love you. I respect the ever-loving shit out of you, as well as the rest of the guys on G2, because y'all are real ones.
Yeah. I also think that it's hard to feel too bad for G2 losing this game as a fan of G2, I believe, because they are likely to be in a similar situation again later down the road. If you were to look at any of these teams at this event, I think G2 would be the team that I would put my money on of being in another final most. Like, I think they've got the highest chance of being in this spot again and having another opportunity to win a trophy this year. Because they're
and very recently we have seen
remarkable.
that happen. Like, if you're a G2 fan, you'd be like, well, Gen.G lost in a 5-map grand final last year and then won the next Masters. EG lost in a grand final and then won champs. Like, you know, we have seen teams, you know, it's not like they lose. Like, we've seen in the past that teams, you know, don't just completely crumble just because they lost a grand final. So yeah, I think I almost would expect them to, you know, do like if they didn't get in the top 4 of like Toronto, I would be quite surprised seeing where we are now. Like, that would be almost like a pretty big shock, because also just like the way that they play, you know, their discipline, which again, like we saw on Pearl, the retakes that they had, you know, just winning over and over again on those retakes, and like just the way that they play, like, you know, there isn't like a ton of like, oh, you know, that's gonna just get counted straight away. Like, you just trust them to, like, even if Teo did get nerfed, they'd be fine. They'd find some solution that would work for them. Like, I just think they're just very good. I mean, like you said, you think that they are, you know, still the best team. You know, I wouldn't be such a T1 hater, but you.
No, I'm not a T1 hater. I'm a G2 glazer. Get it right.
I'm gonna get the T1 fan trucks. We're gonna ship them across to the UK and get them parked outside of your house.
Ship them across to the UK. Good luck doing that, buddy. That is such a long drive.
I mean,
My wife works for a shipping company. What can I say? Got connections.
Oh, get them over here. Get them over there. I'll give the T1 fans my address. We can come and have a party.
I think both of these teams should be fine for like this year as well, especially if we just look like near like just the maps that are going out. Like, they both won't mind Bind going out. Wasn't in their top 4 strongest, and then Abyss, great for T1 to go out, obviously, and then G2, maybe their Abyss has started to get a little bit stale, I would say, with some of the performances. Where obviously lost to Sentinels and nearly lost this if it wasn't for Jorgamo as well. So I feel like both of these teams, even though they kind of lose a little bit of time, they're still in a great spot map pool wise. And I think a lot of teams are going to start stealing the T1 double duelist meta stuff. I'm not saying it's meta, because it just kind of works like per team, I think, but it's definitely something that other teams are going to start to look at. And it's cool, man. Dude, this whole event was sick, because first of all, we weren't expecting T1 to do this, and the fact they've gone and done it using T1 using like new comps,
Their own style.
Yeah, that's sick, dude. Like, that's so cool to like go against the Teo. That's really sick.
Is it crazy to say, even though Tejo has been released and has immediately catapulted, I believe I'm right in saying, to the most picked agent of the event?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just gut check, but maybe that's wrong. Let me just quickly check that.
I think that's right.
Yeah, 56% pick rate, above Omen at 54%, above Euro at 46%. But it feels like one of the best metas that we've had. And
by a long shot.
Yeah, which is weird to say, though, isn't it? Because you've like released an arguably overpowered, a bit broken agent, which has immediately become a must pick for most teams. And yet, actually, I feel like there's a lot of compositional diversity still because, you've still
the
got...
team that won the tournament didn't really play it at all.
They didn't
That's
play
the thing.
it.
I think there's just a lot of good agents now. Like, I think the problem is before, had they released a good agent in the past, there isn't enough other good options to where, like, everyone, like 56% is pretty high, but compared to other Masters, 56% is not high at all for the most picked.
Jet used to get like 70%.
Yeah,
Silver used to get 70%.
Yeah,
Chamber you're looking at like 70,
high.
80. Like, those are like, you must play that agent. And I just think we're in a very open space, and now with like Deadlock getting buffed as well, it's kind of even more open, I would say, because the thing is, you can't fit them all into your comp. You can think like, hey, Cypher's still pretty good, and Vice is good, and Deadlock's good, and your Viper, Omen, and Astra are all decent options, and Yoru, Raze, and a good option. Like, there's so many that you could potentially pick that you just can't pick them all. Like, you see teams going for Teo Breach, but it's like everyone also knows that Sova is insanely good. Like, it's not that they think that Sova is shit. And that's what I think creates an interesting meta, that you can have, there's a lot of options there.
Well,
it's going to be fun.
Any final comments on Masters Bangkok before we move on from discussing it?
I think I just want to say that, Achilles, you did do a wonderful job on the cast.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
It was amazing. The hype, there was a lot of hype moments, but I think we will look back at them, and your casting with Paper Thin will hold up well, I think.
Thank you very much.
I think you nailed it.
Felt very good about it. I'd also like to glaze myself. No, I want to glaze another G2 player, which was Jogamo, because as downtrodden and upset as the man could be after losing the final, I got a DM like when I got to the airport, I want to say, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, didn't get to see you last night, but just want to say congratulations on the cast. I'm sure you fucking killed it." I'm like, "Mate, why are you messaging me about this? Like, you should be just like, picking yourself up by your bootstraps and getting ready to, get back into prac and get on the plane, go back to Americas." And the fact that he was able to reach out and like congratulate me on a career milestone after a loss, I'm like, this is maybe the nicest man in Valorant. So, Jogamo, also love you. Wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah,
the G2 guys are wonderful.
I just want to shout out this T1 and G2. Like, it was a cool final, man. High level final, lots of crazy players. Like, it delivered on a mad level. So especially after the first map, I thought it wasn't going to deliver like this.
Shout out for T1.
I was so scared. I was so fucking scared.
I was super scared after the first map, but it was so sick. And I think just T1 in general, like, this was a crazy performance, like crazy performance. And I think they did good to realize, like, mid-tournament what their win conditions are in terms of like the double duelist maps and not picking the bind anymore and getting like the Lotus or the Havens.
I saw Buzz before, this is the last thing I'll say, but I saw Buzz before I went back up onto the caster desk area, right before they were getting ready to go to the stage for Split. And I didn't say like, please win, I want you to get the trophy or anything. I just said, hey, give me a map 5. And Buzz just went, I will, trust me. And I went, I do, I fucking trust you. And we walked away from each other. And he went up and he fed his fucking brains out and got me a map 5.
Yeah, I mean, going up there to win a trophy and saying I will give you a map 5 is a crazy statement. Like,
he's got like 3 and 15.
I got 2 shout outs. One shout out to the Thai crowd. They were genuinely very fun.
Awesome.
They were amped up. They didn't have a home team necessarily, but they were excited about a lot of different teams. And they were rooting for, I think, mostly for T1 when they went on their run towards the end, and that was spectacular. And they were just a great crowd overall. And also, shout out to the people in charge of the crowd mics at the event for finally getting that mix sounding really nice coming through to the stream too. Because I feel like on some of the other events, we've not had very good, it hasn't come through to the stream in the same way.
Yeah,
of what it sounded like inside the arena. Whereas this one really did sound nice from what I
know Sliggy's pretty anti-crowd, but It was good.
It just sometimes there's just plays you can't do on LAN. That is what it is because the crowds give it away. But that's fine. That's all part of LAN.
Yeah, and it's not like the crowd. We thankfully have not had the same problem in Valorant as they have in CS, where there's people deliberately trying to cheat. It's just that people get excited and like give away a play occasionally. But it's not like people are screaming "fucking they're on A"
Go B,
or
go
whatever.
B.
Yeah. All right, it's time then for our final segment. It's time for the most important segment, Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Hold on. It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Why is he on a football stadium with a bike?
It's a velodrome. Don't think too hard about it.
It's Plat chat. Don't think too hard about it.
Exactly. So Wyatt's Weekly Award this week, I want to give it to a player on T1 who was one of the most underrated players coming into the event by the community, by us, by everybody, and performed to an unbelievable degree. We've already talked about him earlier on. It's Isu. I think he's a very worthy winner of the Wyatt's Weekly Award this week. He was ranked by the community 36th out of 41 players.
Damn.
Jesus.
And by Plat chat, only, quite a bit higher, but still not anywhere near what he performed
Mostly
as.
Bren, I think.
Bren had him really high.
Yeah, so that brought him up to 25th out of 41. So still under average, but like a lower middle of the pack player is what we rated him as. And he performed as one of the best. He was utterly outrageous in terms of what he'd done towards kickoff and the glow up that he had at this tournament. I think one of the major reasons that they won was kind of that glow up from him and from Sylvan. So great performance from Isu, a worthy winner of the Wyatt's Weekly Award. And I think just another showcase that we need to be doing these community rankings more so that we can point at you as being involved in the fraudulent takes. And it's not just always us that are stupid and dumb and you guys know better. It's normally that you guys don't put it down in writing beforehand.
Let's get a community power ranking for the next tournament and let's fucking dissect that, shall we? T1 would be turned upside down on the community one.
Just aggregate all of the members.
Well, if you want power rankings, next week we're planning to power rank every team in the entire league. So we have
go wrong.
We have a graphic that has space for all of the teams that we have in VCT.
I can show you guys what it looks like real quick. If
you show us a glimpse of it, Kurt.
It's ridiculous. I had to scale everything down to fit 48 teams in a graphic. It's loading. 1 second here.
It's loading. Like, it has a load time.
Terabyte file.
It's taking my computer.
Loading it off his fucking floppy disk.
So we do have a couple of weeks that are going to be a little slower before we get back into stage 1, which is nice, to be honest. I'm super happy for that. Sliggy can finally go outside. And this is what we're going to try to tackle.
He's not going to.
Probably not, but yeah.
1 to 48.
Damn.
Kurt, do you want to put somebody in now? Just throw a team in.
Throw a
Put
team
T1
in.
at number 1.
I mean, yeah.
Put T1. Put G2 at number 1.
Put G2
No, we'll change it later.
Sorry. Trophyless organization.
He's already put G2 at number 1.
Yeah, I actually would. I actually would fucking fight me. I'm not gonna it's never gonna happen, is it? Because I'm just gonna get voted down an L-take dumbass stupid egg. But
that's gonna happen no matter what.
Correct.
Yeah, that's very true.
Kurt, I have a question. Am I on next week's episode when you guys are doing this?
Do you want to be on it?
No.
All right.
It sounds like
I'm not gonna
ass.
force anybody to do anything.
It sounds like hell on earth trying to fight with Wilkinson to get teams into certain slots.
Oh, I mean, there can't be that much fighting about it, surely. Like, it's going to be an absolute...
Next week, you are going to be like, gentle mates in 39? Oh, have we lost our mind? They're 46!
I think we're really overestimating DRG again here, guys.
DRG at 47?
Overrated, I think. Overrated at 47th. Okay,
Christ.
so that's what you've got to look forward to next week. Along with talking about some of the roster changes and roster moves that have been happening. And it's been kind of bonkers for the amount of roster shifts that have been going on. It's really ludicrous. They've just kind of got...
a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Way more than I thought.
So, yeah.
The good news is...
maybe a few.
You don't have to talk about the Paper X one until like stage 2 because they've signed somebody, but they might not play, or they will play, but they might not play until stage 2, apparently.
Yeah, that
allegedly,
is so
but
odd.
we're not sure. But it seems like not until then.
It is really strange what they're doing over there. But all right, we'll talk about that next week. And then we'll be back to talk about, I guess, China in a couple of weeks as well, because they're going to kick off earlier than everybody else. So we'll grab some people that are very knowledgeable about China, or at least one guest that's super deep into the Chinese scene. Okay, for now, though, that's been episode 207. That's been our episode recapping Masters Bangkok. Thank you, Sliggy, TMV, and Achilles. Should we all just pop the pictures up? Just for one last little ride. Well, I just love that. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bye.